All right, welcome everybody to Geek the F Out. We're here to talk about the final episode of this season of Ahsoka. I'm Lucha Johnny.
I'm Kayla.
I guess that means I'm Brick something.
Is that it? I thought you were going to talk again.
I'm sorry. Usually you go into the introduction, so I didn't say
I'm Rogue 3.
We are not here all alone, obviously,
Yes.
as you can see. We have some wonderful guests here with us.
Indeed,
Kayla,
we do.
would you like to introduce
Adam,
our...
No, Adam. I'm not doing it. I've been put on the spot. I'm
here. Brick's here.
Adam's
Yeah,
here.
good to see
here.
you.
The boyfriends are here. As y'all know, I call them the boyfriends. So yeah, that's
We
it.
had a canceled date night, but here we are.
Yeah.
We have some folks in the chat already too. Quip is here.
Thanos
is here.
Thanos.
Holdo maneuver was
5
here
a.m.
at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Yeah,
Nice.
that's dedication. Yoko's here. Hi, Yoko.
Was here early.
What's up, Yoko?
May or may not be joining us later. We'll see. But yeah, thanks y'all for joining us. So excited. We saved the best for last, as y'all kept saying.
To be clear, you just said that there were guests after us, so that really doesn't mean a whole lot. But yes.
Damn it, Brick.
Yep. I'm paying attention.
You're always welcome here. WELCUM here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, let's get into it. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about episode 8 of Ahsoka first, and then yes, we will be joined by some people later to wrap up this season as a whole, and we will be doing our That's What They Saids for the entire season and show some memes as we always do. So that'll be a lot of fun. And FYI, we won't be the only ones doing the That's What They Said. We will be having some help from our distinguished guests, so that'll be a lot of fun. And there's Allison.
Allison is here.
May or may not be joining us later too.
That was
theoretically
really dark and sad, by the way, Allison. But thank you for that reference.
Theoretically, everyone may or may not be joining us this afternoon or this evening.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. Anyways, let's get into it.
I'm gonna be coloring with Allison on Sunday.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very excited for that.
It's gonna be fun.
Excuse me. Anyways, this episode though. Quick thoughts before we get into the nitty-gritty of episode 8. Did it live up to your expectations of the finale? You know, good, bad, sad, happy. Brick, you look like you're about to talk, so you can go for Johnny, you can go. Either one. Someone go.
I wasn't about to talk. I was mulling over the question, and I will just Johnny. Say, yeah, please.
Okay. This
home court advantage.
So, yeah. This felt like a mid-season finale of a longer show. Mm-hmm. Like it didn't feel like a season finale. It felt like this is the episode we get before the show goes on hiatus for like 2 months before
it was like Christmas break or something, you know?
Yeah. That's what it. Yeah. That's it. That's all I have. That encapsulates everything.
Okay.
Sums it up for me. It didn't feel like a season finale. It felt like a mid-season finale.
Yeah. See that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say right now that I love anything that Star Wars does. So if you're looking for hot takes, I'm not going to be the guy for that. But as far as this goes, like I was under the impression that Ahsoka was sort of a one season and done. Like I thought I'd heard that. And so I was kind of waiting for like payoff for a lot of these storylines and, you know, a lot of these kind of loose threads to get tied up a little bit. And like Johnny said, it was like this felt like it felt like a prelude to something almost like, and
a prelude to a movie, perhaps.
Yeah, but I still think that there's like, you know, knowing that Dave Filoni is going to do the kind of Mandalorian verse movie, I still felt like there's too much just like 2 hours wouldn't sort of tie up all the stuff that I think they still had going on here. Yeah. And so I'm kind of like, I was thinking like, you know, we'd get some resolution and sort of we'll get there, but you know, to sort of jump to the end, I thought they would all end up in one place, or the people that got left behind would be either dead, or we kind of would just assume that that was the end. Now I'm like, is there now another Star Wars universe, like, or galaxy? You know what I mean? Like, how is this? Anyway, we'll get to that. I have way more thoughts on that, but
we're in the multiverse
long time ago in one galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes, it is turned into multiples. Go ahead, Brick.
Multiples. I see what you did there.
We like multiples.
Congratulations. I think that I agree with the notion that it felt a little unresolved. And as far as like storytelling goes these days with not just Star Wars, but I think, you know, we've really been trained to kind of think of like these franchises as really big and wait for the next thing, right? That I don't know. I think my brain is sort of adjusted, and I don't know. I never thought that it was only one season. I thought that with Kenobi, and I think that might be true. Maybe not. But for this one, I just thought that it was open-ended, like it wasn't sort of stated.
Yeah.
But I'm with these guys so far in terms of just like it felt a little like wait till what happens next, and not necessarily like in a not even in a weird cliffhangery way. So it's just, I will say that it left me in a kind of a weird place. Yeah, but in a weird like. I don't know.
Like you don't want to be
not
edged.
Like I wasn't super like happy about being edged. Like I don't feel let down per se, but part of me was kind of like, well, wait, what exactly happened in this thing? And so I'd love to kind of talk tonight and just hear a little bit more what folks are thinking about, like what actually happened in the season, and what are we supposed to think is going to happen? Because there's I'll just throw this out early that I'm still actually a little bit confused as to why I'm supposed to be concerned that Thrawn is back. But I'll leave that there.
I don't disagree. And I just want to echo what Brick said, because we share one mind. It didn't feel like a cliffhanger. It felt like there's one more episode in the season. Like it wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like any storylines were sort of tied up, which is typically how a season will end, right? There's a cliffhanger because something's unresolved, but at least you get, you know, 70% or 80% of the storylines kind of tied up. There was no storylines that felt like they were tied up, and you know, I say that as somebody that absolutely loved it and I want more of it, but I don't know. They're just the payoff didn't seem to be there.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, like I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, I feel like I feel similar to all of y'all, where it's like there's something it just needed and it didn't hit. And I saw a lot of people commented how they felt like it was more of a penultimate episode, and I thought that was, you know, pretty good point that that's exactly how it felt. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Getting into it though, starting off with the cargo transfer being complete, what the fuck are in these caskets?
Oh, those are dead bodies.
Well,
currently
no shit,
dead.
Sherlock.
Currently dead, but not forever dead.
Yeah,
based on
as we can,
you know, what
as we've seen, as we've seen, the Great Mothers can resurrect the Night Troopers, but there is a lot of theories as to who specifically are in these caskets. Obviously, they're dead. I've seen some theories on how they're like Night brothers and sisters, or something like that. The brothers and sisters, like
Dathomir.
The Dathomir.
Just a bunch more witches.
Except
Yeah.
in Dathomir that we know, it's weird. It's like the men are Zabrak, which is a different species, and there are actually female Zabrak as well. So like Maul and the worst name, in my opinion, of Star Wars ever, Savage Opress. Sorry, some things. But
it's fancy because it's Savage.
Yes, Savage Opress. Oh, he must be mean. So I think, yeah. So I don't know, brothers, sisters, maybe, because if I'm looking at sort of the witches and Dathomir, I mean, it could be, but I do have like, okay, let me step back for a second. In my sense, if I look at this show, my sense is that this is playing a particular role of connecting episodes, what happened after episode 6 to episode 7. And I don't mean that in a like, oh no, they had to get Dave Filoni, Lucas's protege, to come fix things. I'm sorry, I'm out with all that, and we can talk more about that a little later if you want to hear why I'm out on that. But I mean more so, if I look at what Filoni has done with Star Wars in the past, he was called in by Lucas to help Lucas address something where he was like, oops, I talked about this thing called the Clone Wars in episode 4, and I tease it, and it's going to be this big, huge thing. But I'm doing these movies now, and I only have one more movie, and there's all this like thing that's supposed to happen between episode 2 and episode 3. I know what I'll do. I'll create a cartoon. And so he brought in Dave Filoni to do that and really to fill in that gap and really like build out the world in a way that I think was generally pretty satisfying of sort of showing us that. So I kind of look at it like that. And I think Rebels did a very similar thing too, sort of in a different period, I guess. And I think Resistance was trying to do the same thing. If you've watched Resistance, I think Resistance was very much trying to play in this sort of time period too, like maybe right before The Force Awakens. So on that note, if I look at like some of the open pieces, I'll just jump to the end. The Rise of Skywalker, spoiler alert. We find out that somehow Palpatine returned and that he's in the secret dark energy, dark side place called Exegol that is filled with a bunch of random people that we barely see, but they're in stands and they're almost zombie-like. My thinking is, are these those bodies? And so, because I think like the Night Sisters I think they made a deal with Thrawn. I think Thrawn was like, hey, work with us, talk to someone in that other galaxy using the Force, Elsbeth, and see if you can get them to come here to pick us up. And in return, I'll do XYZ. So in my brain is like, well, what's XYZ? And I think it's like, I'll help you transport your dead that are here back to this new place. And maybe they can do something. So I don't yet know in my brain if that means they're in league with Palpatine or just in general, they feel drawn to some kind of dark place to do something. But if I had to guess, I'd say maybe those are the people that are on Exegol, as well as this stuff from the books. This group of people called the Acolytes of Beyond, which was like in the Aftermath books. But I feel like I need to do this real quick.
Real quick, Johnny, I know you want to say something. I agree that it, could be all those bodies, people, zombies on Exegol. I've seen that theory around a lot too. And I think in general, it seems like this, is kind of filling in the gaps like Clone Wars did. But also, I'm very curious because I would hope that they kind of already had these stories in mind before they did. The fuck is the last movie's name?
The Rise of Skywalker?
The Rise of Skywalker. You just said it.
They absolutely did not.
But I don't think they did.
No, you would hope, but they didn't.
One would hope.
They had no plan.
Before we throw that out there as
credit in that respect.
Sure, but before we throw that out as a like, see, Lucasfilm sucks or Kathleen Kennedy or whatever, can I just throw out there that like he had a sense, George Lucas had a sense that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader and all that, but he didn't have episodes 1, 2, and 3 figured out either. And it's not like he had a sense of what was going to happen after. So I mean, I just want to throw that out there because I think,
I don't have a problem with that either. I don't have a problem with them not necessarily knowing what's coming next. But when when you try to kind of piece these things, when you cobble these things together and try to kind of shoehorn certain things in, then it gets a little clumsy and or heavy-handed. I've already said that, you know, whatever Star Wars puts out, I'm here for it. But I'm also one of those people that kind of shrugs all that stuff off. But objectively, it does feel a little bit fast and loose with some of the like parts where they're kind of filling things in. Like if these are sort of the if these bodies, we're assuming they're bodies and not snacks for a long journey, like if they're going to show up on Exegol, it feels like that diminishes what Ahsoka is as a series. If this is just a series that's like, you know, filling it, if this is backfill, right? If this is just, you know, Dave Filoni cleaning up somebody's mess, I don't know. That makes the whole series a little bit less special, a little bit less fun. And what I'm essentially saying is, like, can we not just let Ahsoka be Ahsoka? Like, I don't read any of the theories. Like, if something pops up in my feed, I might take a look at it, but I'm not on Reddit. I'm not going out of my way to see anything. I don't even watch a lot of these shows. I watch your guys' show, don't worry. But if I say something that people have like completely you know, mentioned before, and it's been completely, you know, picked apart and it's not true or whatever, please understand that this is just what I thought of the show, because I think we live in this weird world where there's so much content and there's so much speculation and there's so much that everybody wants something to be something important and not just entertainment, right? Merrick was just nothing,
actually.
Or at the very
don't get him started, Brick.
I mean, at most, Merrick was sort of reanimated by the sisters, right?
Right.
And that was
he wasn't Ezra. He wasn't those things.
Fart.
Totally.
Right.
Big ol' fart.
I didn't know anything about this, but like you guys kind of told me that, like, oh, everybody's speculating on who Merrick is. Oh, it could be Ezra, it could be Kanan, and I was like, can he just be Merrick? Like, can't things in Star Wars just be what they are? Couldn't Boba Fett have just been Boba Fett, and we could have just left it alone? Like, so.
But no, they want to make money and fill in all the gaps, which normally we like filling in gaps, but you know.
I just think that there needs to be room for imagination, and you know, there needs to be room for something to come along later. There needs to be room for fan fiction. There needs to be room for speculation and mystery and all that kind of stuff. Because if you map everything out, it just kind of loses some of the magic. But
I'll pull a Star Trek quote that Kayla hasn't heard yet, but it exists, and I think it's kind of relevant to what Adam's saying. Having is not so pleasing a thing as wanting. It is not logical, but often it is true. So it's one of those things, and I said before, like, it's similar to the Boba Fett thing. Sometimes not having everything spelled out for you and having to fill in the gaps yourself is part of the charm and makes it more interesting than when they put all of it together or put all the pieces together for you.
We love a good tease. Okay. I want to try to narrow in on episode 8 though a little bit.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about. Yeah, it's okay. It's hard not to.
We got very broad. Yeah. Especially with this being the last episode of this season. Like you have a tendency to get broad, but we do want to talk a little bit about the episode itself.
So yeah, we still have some pretty says the guy who hasn't seen Rebels. Yes. We got some pretty awesome things in this episode, though. We have Morgan getting the gift of shadows from the Great Mothers, and she gets the Blade of Talzin, which very much reminded. Oh yeah, which yes, she ended up dying.
Sorry,
that was another thing I was going to mention. and which reminded me of the flaming sword in Game of Thrones, and I'm forgetting the name of the guy who wields it. Do you remember that?
Is it
Rick?
like bear?
Baron or
Yeah, I don't remember.
something
The
like
what?
that
Flaming
in Game
sword.
of Thrones.
The guy who.
Spoiler
Up north.
alert. Yeah.
No comment. Okay,
That
moving
was like 10
on.
years
I'm only on
ago.
season
Come on,
5.
bro. Oh boy. Okay. Anyways, I mean, it doesn't give anything away. And then Ezra builds a saber, which is pretty awesome, using what was it? One of Kanan's kyber crystals, or like the end?
No, the hilt.
Emitter.
The hilt.
The
The hilt. That's what it
emitter.
was.
Well done with the terminology there, Leech Johnny.
There we go.
Thank you, Brick. I do
Yeah, and
kind
then-
of. So I'm guessing
Go ahead.
Hu Yang just had an extra kyber crystal lying around for Ezra to use
Yeah.
too. Like,
I had the
They
same
didn't,
thought.
they didn't cover that. Yeah, I think they passed by
Yeah.
Batu, and there's a shop there where you can buy a bunch at a blind bag, and I think.
that's why.
Yeah,
it was-
see, it was
Hu
Barrick, by
Yang-
the way. I
Hu
was
Yang
gonna
should
say
know-
They found it in the teeth of the Purgil. They're like just cleaning out his teeth there, and they're like,
We figured
look
it
at
out.
this."
Barrick Dundarian. There we go. Thank you,
I was
Cobb.
gonna say that earlier. If you watch back, I went, but I was like, wait, no, that sounds like brick. What am I thinking? And so I stopped myself.
I mean, this is fair too. Thanos says, "Why wouldn't he?" And at least if someone is just going to have an extra kyber crystal lying
Yeah,
around,
it would be
Hu
Hu
Yang makes sense.
No,
But-
totally.
And
Yeah,
also
I just thought it was
because
funny.
Ezra has already made a couple sabers before this. I think it would be different if it was his first one. You know,
Yeah, that's what
clearly
I
you're
thought too, is
supposed
that,
to
like,
have.
You know, if
something.
like Johnny said, if anyone's gonna have extras, it's Hu Yang.
Mhm.
And it's not, you know, when Ezra's building another lightsaber, and I think that's his third, right? Technically.
Yeah.
It's his third.
So he's not going to be like, no, you have to go on a journey and go through this cave
Yeah.
and find it. And
You've
like,
been through it, bro.
Ezra's like, yo, pump the brakes, man. Do you have one or not? Like, and I think he was like, yeah, I got a drawer full of them. It's no big deal. Because he has drawers full of everything. So it's like, clearly Hu Yang is like equipped to like help people build lightsabers, unless you're Kanan's son.
I mean, also, to be fair, there's a lot of orphaned lightsabers out there because there's a lot of dead fucking Jedi.
Damn.
Again, there's literally hundreds
Not
of
wrong.
lightsabers unclaimed.
We
at the
don't
Lost
know-
and Found.
We don't know what Hu Yang and Ahsoka have been doing for the last 10 years. Maybe they were going around like hunting for lightsabers and reclaiming lightsabers and breaking them down for parts so that Hu Yang can stay socked.
On that note, like I do have like a weird headcanon, because the thing is, we find out that ship. Well, we don't find out; it's not confirmed. But I gotta assume that ship is actually the same ship that Hu Yang was taking younglings on to Ilum. Ilum was, I love it because it's ILM, but Ilum was the planet that was this gigantic planet where they go and find their lightsaber and do the whole trial and get their crystal from that place. That eventually becomes, spoiler alert, Star Killer Base. They gut it. The Empire takes it over, and then eventually the First Order kind of reclaim it, gut it, and turn it into a giant space station, whatever. Because the thing's like a giant kyber crystal. So, like in my head, where would Hu Yang be this whole time? Because where would he be this whole time, flying around in that ship? And it's like, man, he probably knew that the Empire controlled that place, and I could totally see him like flying around and trying to like grab things, and maybe going back to Ilum and getting crystals or whatever, just to like preserve or
That's
whatever.
a good theory.
Yeah, because
And I'll do Disney's job for them and say that maybe he went to Batu and hooked it up with those people and gave them all this stuff, so that eventually
$300 later
and visit and make lightsabers.
He's like, I'm not going to use all of these. Are you guys interested?
Yeah.
Because as far as Ilum goes, if you've played Jedi Survivor, they establish in that the Empire already had a foothold on Ilum that far back. So it's been inaccessible to non-Empire personnel for a while.
Interesting.
Anyway, back to
so
Ahsoka.
real quick, we also learned a little bit more about Sabine and Ahsoka's relationship, and Hu Yang says how, you know, Ahsoka worried about Sabine once the siege of Mandalore happened and all these people died. So she was worried about how, with her training to be a Jedi, if, she could potentially go to the dark side or just like, go too far with it as like, I'm guessing with revenge and whatnot. So that was kind of cool to learn a little bit more about their relationship and what happened exactly, because I know that's been up to a lot of speculation from people. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, so we have reawoken zombies. So that is now part of Star Wars. Has it been a thing before? Besides, I know like specific people have been reborn.
It's in the like Legends canon now.
Okay.
Like zombie stormtroopers specifically has been a thing.
Okay.
And as much as I said, like if Dave Filoni is just trying to fix things, he's also doing a cool thing where he's bringing in extended universe or Legends sort of lore and kind of pulling things back into canon by kind of retrofitting them a little bit and sort of making sure that they fit within the rest of the canon, which I actually really appreciate. I think a lot of people for a long time were quite upset with Disney for casting off things like zombie stormtroopers, but they're bringing them back, and I think I think that's Disney showing respect to people that have been Star Wars fans for longer than 6 years, or when did Force Awakens come out? 10 years or whatever it is.
Oh my God, it's gonna be 10 years.
Or it's Dave
years.
Filoni being our Lord and Savior, being our white knight and saving Star Wars and wrestling it away from Kathleen Kennedy.
God. Oh jeez.
All sarcasm.
Those people. Yeah.
That noise.
I don't have a problem with any of them, but I'm not gonna say that any of them is like a hero, because they all have different levels of Star Wars fandom, really, at the end of the day. So
everyone has their own things that they love about Star Wars, and I think that's okay. At the end of the day, we're not gonna love everything. I mean, Adam loves everything apparently, but
so we were watching. I'll just very quickly interject this because I was rewatching episode 7 this morning and the lightsaber battles that are in that, because there's a bunch episode 7 of Ahsoka, not the movie episode 7, to be clear. And there's like multiple lightsaber battles all kind of happening at the same time, and my 7-year-old turns to me and she goes, "This is your favorite part of Star Wars, the lightsaber battles." And I was like, how does she know that? And I don't even necessarily like acknowledge that. But yeah, I mean, it's like this is the nerdiest of us are like, yay, lightsabers, and like it just
sports.
It's fun. It's just fun. It's ridiculous, but it's fun.
To go back to the zombie thing real quick, I will just say 2 things. Like you were saying that it's smart to go back and work some of that stuff in. I think maybe Disney did the poor PR job of saying that really early and maybe sort of how they said it. But I think when they called it Legends, I think that's all intentional, right? Then the notion is that all legend is based in fact or whatever. And I think it was just a matter of time that they'd be pulling for that. Of course they would. Just like Marvel is going through however many decades of Marvel stories, but then only cherry picking to make it canon, unless you're in the multiverse. I think that was sort of inevitable.
Madness.
And I'm one of those persons who read a lot of the old EU, and played a lot of the old EU, and like there was some stuff that I really liked and there was some stuff that I really did not like, but kind of just went with it. But to go that said, like I do think they are intentionally going through and pulling out some of the best pieces and kind of explaining how the legends are in fact based in fact, right? Like, oh no, there was actually a guy named Thrawn. It's a little bit different from what you remember. there were a Silamari
He's
or whatever.
not your mommy's Thrawn. He's your daddy's Thrawn.
Right. And in Heir to the Empire, there were these creatures that were like force nullifying little lizard things, but they didn't bring that back. Like, in other words, that they are definitely picking and choosing, and I think that's smart. As far as the zombies go, even aside from the Legends part, they've been around in canon. So in the Clone Wars, we actually saw Night Sisters get resurrected to fight.
Yeah.
And then in Fallen Order,
but just like a massive amount, I think is.
I mean, it was a
what
whole
I'm
planet
asking.
defending.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it wasn't that
I
the
don't
amount that
remember
we
that.
see in the ship, but they were being resurrected.
Okay.
And then in Fallen Order, we see on Dathomir, like zombies. You're basically fighting a bunch of zombie Zabraks, right? So it's specifically, I named those because it's specifically very much like a Night Sister Dathomir kind of thing. So
yeah,
I guess where I struggle, to go back to what we said early on, where I'm kind of like, I don't know why I'm supposed to be scared that Thrawn is back, is because it's kind of unclear. Like, they keep alluding to, oh no, he's going to start a war again. And we can get into like whether or not that is true or not, or why that matters, because really at this time there are Imperial remnants like out there still. So then it goes to this whole notion that I think a lot of and I think a lot of people hold on to this notion that no, he's the one who's the most organized, who can really bring us all back, that they kind of alluded to in
bad
Mando.
blue guy.
My struggle is, though, that like I still haven't seen Thrawn be as mighty and intelligent and effective as he came across in Heir to the Empire, like the original trilogy. Again, a lot of those things I don't like in Heir to the Empire, but there was a lot about how he was shown that was like, oh, that was really cool. But they had to do that at that time because at that time period, the Emperor was gone, Vader was gone, so they needed to replace that. But when he came back into canon and Filoni brought him back in, he brought him back in Rebels. And Vader still existed. Grand Moff Tarkin still existed. So it was kind of like, how are you going to make this guy seem like the be-all, end-all, most amazing bad guy while those other guys are around? It feels a little strange. And then like when I watched Rebels, I was kind of like, no, he was kind of whack. Like I wasn't super impressed by him in Rebels.
He seems to have like a very specific intention, but not like a but not a
he's very
not
calculated,
like a galactic intention, if that makes sense, right? Like in the sense that yes, he was sort of the big bad in Rebels, but Rebels was about a very small group of people. And you know what Ezra did at the end of Rebels, Johnny, I won't spoil it for you, but what Ezra did at the end of Rebels dealt with Thrawn, but it didn't like change the Star Wars universe as such. So how would kind of resetting that reset the Star Wars universe? I agree with you, Brick. Like, I just don't see how Thrawn coming back, you know, ruins everything that the New Republic has established, because Thrawn doesn't come across in current canon as somebody that sort of has that. I don't even think he comes across as somebody that has that ability, let alone that kind of motivation. And I mean, to the point of like the Thrawn trilogy and stuff like that, and like is it the Chiss? Is that
the
Chiss ascendancy and all that kind of stuff? Like that to me is far more intriguing, but it doesn't lead me to galactic war. You know what I mean?
Like that he's coming back to wage galactic. Yeah, and I think that's the other tricky thing. So like, again, I've been super steeped in Star Wars, and so like there are Thrawn books. There's a trilogy, and there's more coming,
and they're great.
And he's much more effective there. And then there's some things in there that make me sort of wonder, like, because they set his rationale for even joining the Emperor. Like, he is there because he is so loyal to his people, and they have a threat that they're concerned about. So he's looking for one of the sort of more the strongest force out there that could potentially ally with the Chiss ascendancy. And so he does that with the Emperor. But like, so if
Johnny, do you have?
Well,
sorry.
that's finish your thought, because I have a question about that, and maybe you're going the same place.
Well, so one, where were his true loyalties, and why is this notion, like when they kept saying that he's the heir to the Emperor, or the heir to the Empire, and that he is the last hope for the Empire? Like, my understanding is like he didn't join the Empire to grow the Empire. He never did. So why is this notion that he's back to somehow do this thing? Like, and maybe there's information we're missing, because that's how Star Wars works. Like, we don't know a thing until somehow suddenly this thing happens.
Palpatine returns.
Right. So I can go with that.
Don't want mystery.
But I will just say that's where I've struggled with, because I knew Thrawn from Heir to the Empire, and I appreciated him for that time, and they needed him. Like I said, Emperor was gone, Darth Vader was gone, so he was allowed to be an amazing badass bad guy. Then they brought him into Rebels, and I was like, frankly, he wasn't effective. And like, there was this whole notion where he was brought in because the governor at the time, they couldn't even quell these stupid little rebels. Like, oh, you suck, so we're bringing in Thrawn. And guess what? Thrawn didn't do it either.
He didn't do it.
So
he also didn't have people that were listening to him either.
And that's that's the other thing. You see him. Okay, here's the other piece. So I saw a comment in the chat saying, well, part of the concern is that the reason Thrawn is such a threat is that he can bring everyone together. But again, if you look at supposedly how he came into the Empire, like the Imperials treated him like crap. Like, they were like, this guy doesn't get it. He's not a part of us. And there was a little bit of sort of like bigotry, because like, who's this blue dude? And like, he doesn't understand our power structure. He doesn't follow the hierarchy or the politics. We don't like him. So like, why am I supposed to believe now that, oh, we're waiting for him to come and save us? So there's just some things that are contradictory. And again, I'm for it. Like, I'm not a hater. I'm just sort of saying those are things that are out there. And I would love to see how they figure it out.
So here's my question.
Johnny.
Yeah. Go Johnny.
So the background is that Thrawn went to the Empire because he's like, hey, these guys are fucking with us. You're a big bully. You're a bigger bully than them. Help us beat them if I help you do this. Okay. Well, then the Empire gets their ass kicked, and now they're not really an empire anymore. So why is Thrawn still with them? They obviously aren't going to be able to help him take care of his bully. So
again, it's a question. Yeah, it is a question. And it also, to me right now, because I've seen sort of some folks talk about Thrawn and maybe where his weaknesses are, because people have pointed out like, oh, his big weakness in Rebels was that he didn't understand the Force or the Jedi. He wasn't counting on that. Like he wasn't counting on the Bendu doing what he did. Right. So he kind of miscalculated. He couldn't calculate that in the way that Thrawn does. He didn't understand it. You know, he didn't understand the culture to be able to read into whatever. And then he didn't calculate that this teenage boy would ultimately sacrifice himself and then launch him out into space. So like, there's this notion that some folks are saying, well, that's why he decided to ally himself with sort of Force adherents and Force users, because he wanted to understand it better. And then he realized that was his gap. That was his weakness. So people are saying like, oh, he's so smart that like now he's aligning with them. So
Kayla, can you bring that back up? Because I want to sort of.
Oh, Johnny did that.
Yeah.
When Brooks sort of done.
So, yeah, no, just that. But if that's the case, like and again, we don't know that, this is just people theorizing, but if that is the case, that feels really petty. And like, it feels like it's getting personal. Like, oh, I need to get there's just a lot of these things where I guess I'm saying all that because it's not that I'm waiting for the show to show me that Thrawn is in fact as badass as people want to remember him to be, because I haven't seen that yet in Star Wars as I've laid out, and to even show me why I'm supposed, like we said before, why am I supposed to be worried?
Why are you so bad?
Why am I supposed to be worried? And yeah, that's all.
And to Chris's question there, like, you know, to Brick's point and to Chris's question, like, you know, maybe he's aligned himself with the Night Sisters for that reason, but then like to help him with the Chiss problem. But we don't know anything about the Chiss problem if we're just looking at Ahsoka, right? Like they haven't done enough exposition to make Thrawn anything more than a guy that's been stranded in another universe. Because if you haven't watched Rebels and you don't know who he is sort of within, current
Johnny.
canon, you definitely wouldn't have read the book. Well, maybe, I mean, I don't know. But like, I just think that if you haven't watched Rebels and you don't know who he is, you probably haven't read the books. You probably don't know who the Chiss are. Like, you probably have no idea, like, you've heard, the outer regions or whatever, or the unknown regions or whatever, but you might not know what that means. You might not know who's out there, who's not out there, anything like that. So I just feel like, I feel like Thrawn could have been introduced later, but I don't think Thrawn was the right move for Ahsoka. It's the convenient move because of Rebels, but I don't know. Baylan and Shin were like awesome. Why did we just do that?
Yeah, there was an unfortunate lack of Baylan and Shin in the final episode too, because they were probably my favorite thing about this season. Like, and then they were 30 seconds at the end of this episode,
with very little sort of explanation of like what the heck's going on.
Something.
Should we get back to the episode? Because that's
something that I noticed that I haven't seen anybody mention is that the three Night Mothers they address Thrawn as Lord, which he's not. He's a Grand Admiral in the Empire. He's not a Sith, so it's not like Lord Vader. So why did they call him Lord in that manner?
I didn't catch that. Yeah,
it's a good point. I don't know.
Yeah. So where is he that they're referring to him as? I believe they called him my Lord. So like, what did he do for them? What did he promise them that they're referring to him as Lord?
No, I also, but here, counterpoint to that being important, Hu Yang refers to Sabine as Lady Ren. So it's Lord and Lady. Like, I feel like it's maybe just a choice of term that, the writing team has sort of, so this was going to be more of a wrap up thing, but like, I'll bring it up now. Ahsoka is way more sword and sorcery and sort of the fantasy part of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that's just part of why Lord and Lady have been used specifically in the series. And we haven't really seen that in other sort of things, right? Andor is boots on the ground, dark and dirty and gritty. Mandalorian is a bounty hunter. And, Han Solo doesn't know anything about the Force in the original trilogy. Like, this series was so much about sort of the magical element, the Force and the Night Sisters and all that kind of stuff, that I think they're just leaning more heavily into that aspect of Star Wars. So it didn't sort of register for me because I kept hearing Lady Ren as well, and so it felt more knights and princesses and things. Like, there was no princess ever mentioned there. Leia was mentioned, but not as a princess. So I that was sort of my take on that.
I realized to get back to the episode. Just to get to this. Well, no, we can carry on.
I have like two bigger questions for the episode, but I do actually want to get their opinions while they're here. Although Kevin is not looking right now. Kevin, look back at your screen. I'll bring on our first two of our special guests. Yoko, hello.
Hey.
Hi. Hello.
Sorry.
I was ready.
And Kevin.
I'm looking.
There they are.
I'm looking.
You're looking
You
now.
literally
Over here.
When I was about to put you on, I was like, oh shit, no, he's turned away. He's bending over to get something.
I was putting toys away. I have a lot of toys.
Kev, you look like a floating head.
Yeah, you do.
It's cold. How's it going, everyone?
Welcome.
It's going.
Thanks for joining.
While we have Yoko here,
all over the place.
I was gonna bring it up earlier when you're talking about lightsabers and Ezra's. Was it Yoko the other day that called it Ezra's first thing the staple gun lightsaber? Because I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Staple gun saber.
Definitely staple gun saber. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, so first question, what did you guys think about Sabine finally showing her Force abilities? A couple of times in some major ways.
Mm-hmm.
First with the saber and then with the push. Well, I guess first with the doors, but we weren't really sure if she helped with the doors, but officially it was with the saber. And
Sometimes
then, of
I
course,
ask
with
my
the
kids
push.
to help, and I wonder if that's the amount of help that they're doing.
Yeah, the doors thing, like I said, it's like me at the supermarket. It's just, and then the
Yeah.
doors open. But the
Yeah.
actual saber part, I don't know. They kept teasing us with it, so I
Yeah.
didn't. It's good that it's
And do
not
we-
another tease, but it's like,
You know what it
Yeah.
reminded me of? I'll go first because I instantly in Dragon Ball, everybody like levels up when there's an emotional moment where like they're kind of pushed
Her
to
mutant
their
gene kicked
breaking
in?
point almost.
Yeah.
And so that like she's effectively about to be killed, right? So is there a more emotional moment than that? Probably not. So maybe it's just like she had to kind of break through that wall mentally
Yeah.
to kind of get there.
She got a planeswalker spark.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was, when she says to Ezra, like, I got this. If I was Ezra, I'd be like, do you though?
Yeah.
I don't know that you've proven that you can get me across this gap.
The
I would be like,
only issue
yeah.
with that is a couple episodes back when she was fighting Hottie.
Mhm.
It was pretty emotional, and she was about to get attacked. and she did-
Hottie.
Yeah, and she totally tried to stop her, and nothing happened.
she almost died there too. So,
Yeah,
but the
Here's-
plot didn't call for that yet, guys.
Was it as imminent a death,
armor.
though? You know what I mean? Like that was. It felt
according to the
more-
writers, no.
It felt more imminent to me. If that makes any sense at all.
So something that I noticed that before she had that major moment of grabbing the lightsaber and helping Ezra with the push, she is deflecting blaster bolts like a mofo with that lightsaber, which is not something that, from my understanding, not something that someone who is not a good user of the Force should be able to do.
She also transitioned from just using her wrist gauntlets.
Yeah.
So she was like, it felt like she went from Mandalorian to Jedi. And like it definitely felt like it kind of fully came to fruition in the final episode.
I totally feel like that transition was teased a lot because again in that fight with Hottie, I keep saying Hottie, sorry.
Hottie.
But
She's
there were a couple times where
they
showed her helmet, her Mandalorian helmet, and then moved over to her. Like there was this notion of like it was in her face, like, is she Mandalorian? Is she Jedi? Is she this? Is she? And so I see that being teased throughout. So
yeah. What did you think, Yoko?
We talked about this a little bit on Boba Squadron 2, of course, but like I think the big difference was like she and Ahsoka had that conversation, and like I think, and I've said this before, so I apologize to anyone who heard me say this over on Boba Squadron, but for me, like there's been a parallel with Sabine and Ahsoka storylines this whole time, where the guilt is weighing them down, and the guilt is blocking them from moving forward and doing other things, and I think Sabine, like Ahsoka, finally had that moment. Where she was able to shed some of that guilt, or shed the guilt, and that's what opened up her connection to the Force. And I like that it was a small thing. I mean, it saved her life, but it was that she got the hilt, called the hilt to her, and not like a not like a big dramatic thing, right? When she finally was able to connect to the Force and do something. So I was a little bit torn on how I felt about it at first, but I was like, yeah. It's a good like first step, right? Like when we see Rey first do it, or so.
I totally think that was it. Actually, I agree, and like because it's like there was the inner balance, right? She came to peace with it and was able to sort of then when she was in balance, then she could do the thing. And you just mentioned Rey, but that's like my favorite moment in The Force Awakens, where she's in the middle of this fight and she's like upset that Finn was hurt or whatever, and she's holding her own and everything, but it's the moment where she takes that breath and then she's like, okay, wait, I'm at peace. And then she kind of wrecks shop by using the Force. I think the Force Awakens essentially. So it feels like that. Yeah, like there was this sort of resolution, because as you just mentioned, Ahsoka had to do the same thing too. She had to come to terms with it. With her master, she had to come to terms with all that stuff before she kind of was able to be sorry, I was about to say before she has to be white. But yeah, yeah, so but you know what I mean.
LOL.
Yeah.
Racist.
And I've seen a lot of stuff about how these abilities are also probably connected to, you know, her relationship with Ezra and him being there and him also being in distress and all this stuff. So I mean, I don't, who the fuck knows if that's what it is, but I'm sure that probably helps it a bit. I don't know. Did you have any other thoughts about it, Kevin?
It just reminded me of Luke upside down in the cave, right? And that moment of, if I don't get this to work now, I really got to focus. You know, I'm going to get my ass handed to me. So, you know, ultimately upside down Luke. Yeah, you see, I was waiting for it to wiggle, kind of like when Luke's saber was in that snowbank, and then
it did a little
ultimately
bit.
It did, and then like, okay, there it is. So,
do you think that it's an aspect of becoming a Jedi that like we maybe just don't see on screen all the time, but that's the moment if you can draw a lightsaber into your hand, because
it's that and rocks,
it's happened
right?
several times, and it's like
That's
the moment.
That's the litmus test.
Jedi.
Yeah.
It's that and moving rocks. I mean, I think it relates to fans and younger fans, because you're always like, as a kid, you're always trying to reach for something like that, right? So it's that kind of strain that you're in that position. Then you're like, oh yeah, I've been there. Come on, I hope she can do it. I know exactly how she feels right now. And then bubble tea arrives.
Yes. Oh, so good. All right, I think we need to talk about the Argonath, aka the giant ass statues, Balin, and all that, because that was crazy town. And what the fuck that thing was pointing at, and there was like a light, like
it wasn't
flickering.
pointing. It was fist straight
Whatever.
out.
It was
No
fisting
extended
it.
fingers.
It was fisting.
It was
for sure.
fisting. Okay.
Can I go
All right,
first?
yeah.
I was waiting
Go,
for the
Adam.
biggest fist
I
bump.
have no idea. I have no, like I said, I don't read
the Father,
sort
Son, and Holy Spirit, right?
Not quite that, but yeah.
The only thing that I so like the Star Wars Instagram account posted something about how in Norse mythology, Skoll and Hati are two wolves basically that chase the sun and the moon, and they have different paths, but they end up at the same place. And I was like, okay, I'll sort of work that into this. But I have no idea, and this goes back to me sort of at the beginning of the show saying like, I feel like there's way more unresolved than there is resolved, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, now that we have the alternate Star Wars galaxy where we can kind of start fresh, part of it too is in that respect of sort of unresolved. I was sort of like, you know, Ahsoka hitched a ride with the Purgils. Couldn't she just hitch a ride home? Like,
that's what I've been wondering too.
Are they? Yeah. Why is everybody just stranded all of a sudden? Why didn't they get their act together and just go home? They could all just gone home.
Yeah, and they talk about how that's where they go to die, but then at the same time, when they hit that minefield, if they're going there to die, like, would they just not care if they die from those mines anyway?
Well, I think they went there because Ahsoka politely asked them to, but
yeah, so it makes me feel like some go there, but then they don't die. They just like go with their loved ones who are going there to die. But yeah,
didn't Balin say like that it's sort of like that's their it's like a migratory route almost.
Yeah, it's like their migration, but also like part of it
Mhm.
is this notion that it is a place of death, supposedly, and
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it is. Like we saw a bunch of dead carcasses and
We saw those bones, all
and
right.
parts. Yeah,
It's very
I think
bony out there.
well done. The Mortis gods, I think Chris was saying that are so in the Clone Wars, Anakin is drawn to this place, and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan are there too. And it's I remember seeing that when it came out because there was like a lot of press about like how it's going to reveal so much about the nature of the Force, and then I watched it and I was like, told me nothing. But in hindsight, like it's yeah, it's all about this sort of there's a family. There's the father, there's the son and the daughter, or sorry, brother and the sister.
Holy Spirit.
One embodying. I'm recovering, please. One the notion that one is the embodiment of the dark side, the brother, and the other the embodiment of the light side. And in that episode, there's a connection to Ahsoka because Ahsoka has to sort of be resurrected and sort of take in the spirit, I guess, of the sister. And that little like owl thing, the Morai or Convor, Morai, sort of has been following her this entire time. Anyway, super nerdy. But the Mortis gods, we see them again in Rebels when we see the World Between Worlds. Like there's a mural of them and it's right outside the entrance to the World Between Worlds. And the Imperials who are sort of researching this, trying to find it for the Emperor, are trying to figure out how to use these things. And it isn't until Ezra is able to sort of unlock it. And in the unlocking, I do want to point out that there's like this whole thing with wolves that can sort of transport using the Force, which again, I think is like very like a hint at the whales that can do the same thing, but to another galaxy. So now that there's this other place at the end of where these Purgle are that doesn't now have a mural, but has these giant statues of these things. I don't know if you noticed that there was like a gap like in the rocks next to the old man in the middle. Mm-hmm. That would have been where the sister was, but she had somehow been destroyed because symbolism, I think Chris pointed that, like, because she's the light side and maybe this place was taken over by the dark side, Dathomir or whatever. But it's pointing there, just like the mural was kind of indicating here is the World Between Worlds, and now maybe that's what Balin was there for. Like he was searching the old fairy tales. Maybe he heard old stories about this mysterious place that was like a connection between worlds or something. And I don't know. Just that's what I think as far as like the pieces that they have shown us before is going on, but I don't necessarily know exactly what it means.
Yoko, you looked up the episode numbers the other day, right? Do you remember? Was it Clone Wars season 3?
Season 3, yeah, episode 12 or 15, somewhere in there. Halfway through season 3 is the Mortis arc, yeah.
Yes, I already talked about the Argonath. That's what they remind me of. And that will be in the memes. Don't worry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that arc, and I'm so excited to see. Like that was such an exciting reveal for me at the end of this episode because I had been wondering if it and you were right with daughter and son the first time around.
Okay.
And
not brother and, sister.
No. No. But like I had been wondering if it was like my theory had been that Balin sent the sun there because I was trying to think like, you know, he mentioned something about it's even darker or bigger than the Night Sisters. So I was like, well, what could be scarier than that, you know? And so I was thinking the sun was drawing him in or something. But yeah, I don't know where it's going from there, but it's really exciting. And I do think, you know, with the appearance of the Morai, and that's when Ahsoka is like, oh, we're meant to be here. Like I think her seeing the Morai there was like, oh, okay, this is what's supposed to happen next. So I'm not worried about not making it back right now. So I think that's the symbology there of the daughters decapitated. I mean, is there to represent the daughter. I think
Ahsoka is there. She's the embodiment of it.
Yeah. I saw some theories about like is Anakin the father now? but which is
I've
interesting.
seen that as well.
I don't
Which
know.
also,
That, yeah.
Anakin's Force Ghost showing up at the end. Holy shit!
Yeah. That was sweet.
Well,
That was
Yoko,
amazing.
like what Yoko said, that I haven't heard that theory, but it totally makes sense because that Clone Wars episode, the idea is that the father confirms the prophecies are true by saying that, yeah, you essentially that he is the chosen one who's supposed to bring balance, and the father's actually trying to get Anakin to replace him. He's like, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
You're the chosen one to take my place to restore balance. So
yeah.
Sorry, I just got chills.
Yeah. The geek chills.
Yeah.
Any
and if
any
Ahsoka
other
is
thoughts
the daughter,
on
then who is the son? I don't know. Is it Balin? That's weird. But yeah.
I've seen theories of the dude with the 2 slashes down his face. I don't know the characters as well as y'all.
The brother? I'm sorry, I keep doing that.
I think he Wait, but like
right? Son?
The son?
Yeah, sorry. The son. You're talking about the red lines down his face?
There's some dude that I saw a picture of and they're like, "Oh, I wonder if it's him," but it didn't show or didn't say the name of who he was. I think he was in Clone Wars.
Is he bald?
was associated. Yes.
Probably
Who is
the
that?
brother.
That his name is the brother.
The son.
But there was like someone
son. Sorry.
son.
Oh, brain.
Anyways. Let's see. Any other thoughts on episode 8 in general before we get into more broad stuff on the season?
So Hati going to a bunch of people in armor, really cool looking armor, holding up her red saber, getting their but I'm intentionally saying that because
okay.
I wonder, because it reminded me of the Knights of Ren. And again, if I'm in my brain, at least in this mode of trying to fill in the gaps, it feels like there's a lot of sort of trying to maybe set up the things that we end up seeing in episode 7, 8, 9 coming from episode 6. And so there is sort of like, there are canon comic books about the Knights of Ren, and it literally is a dude with white hair who goes around holding up his sword and getting the Knights of Ren to follow him. And he calls like, "We follow the way of Ren." And so in my brain, I automatically kind of went there, but times don't totally work, but it just was weird because the armor feels very Knights of Ren-y. Following a lightsaber, like she has no connection to them other than I'm just gonna hold up my sword and follow me because of power. And
aesthetically they feel on brand too. Like in the kind of mismatched armor, it has that, like they have the same look and feel. Is that, but forgive me, is that a theory that's out there that the Knights of Ren are effectively these like savages, kind of the...
I haven't heard it, but that's where kind of my brain went, because my 2 kids are super obsessed with the Knights of Ren. And when we got into that, like there were little Lego minifigs, and then the leader. Yeah. Anyway, just that there is this dude and they call him the Ren and they follow the Ren. And at one point, Kylo sort of takes over and
Renception.
And becomes the Ren, essentially. So I don't know if maybe this is like a different order that becomes created. Because if we go back to what you're saying about Hati and Balin, the notion that they're 2 that travel different paths, and he even says that to her, like you're going on a different path.
Yeah.
When it comes to both of those characters, this entire show, I've sort of wondered, and there's been this question: are they Sith? And there's folks who said no, they're not Sith, and they're definitely orange sabers. Like this notion that they're not Sith. It's the exact same thing they told us about Kylo Ren at the beginning of when episode 7 was like, no, he's not Sith. That's, and so there was this like clear distinction. So is this this awkward period between, the fall of the Jedi and the Sith, supposedly, where the Force is kind of like in a gray area, and people like Balin are trying to do something different, and she's doing something different, until the rest of that whole Norse mythology story you're talking about is that they're the ones who bring about Ragnarok, which is like the end, right? So I don't know if in Balin's, because of the things that he said throughout the show, I don't know if in his brain it's like, I'm bringing the end of what the Jedi and the Sith were constantly doing. We need to end that. We need to destroy to create something new again, he keeps saying. So that's why like all this stuff is fitting in my brain about like, yeah, maybe that was the era of the Sith and the Jedi getting us to the order, the era of the Knights of Ren and the Sisters of Dathomir and like these other things, the only to bring us back to eventually somehow Palpatine has returned. And just kidding, it's the Sith the whole time.
It's interesting. I find it really like that aspect, because the sort of the mythology and the sort of magical stuff is the stuff that I love the most. And I think about that sort of dichotomy of the Sith and the Jedi, right? And the Jedi saying like only the Sith deal in absolutes, but it's like, yeah, but you got a lot of rules. And then, Balin isn't a Sith, but he's not a Jedi, and Ahsoka's not a Jedi, but she's sort of the Jedi. And are we going from a black and white to shades of gray, and are they all working towards sort of the same idea? Like, are they just sort of going about it different ways? There's definitely a master and apprentice, with Balin and Shin. She's got the Padawan braid. Like there's a lot of there's still, it still feels like more of a master apprentice than it feels like sort of a Sith. I don't know what a Sith's apprentice is called, but like
a sucker.
She, like, my understanding of the Sith is like, basically, if a Sith is training you, ultimately, like, there has to be a conflict between you two, and they try to kill you, and like killing you is what makes them kind of become a Sith. I didn't get that relationship with them. Like it was a master and apprentice relationship. It didn't feel like a Sith thing. Balin didn't come across the same way that we've seen Sith come across. Like he was a bad guy, but he wasn't a bad guy, like he was trying to achieve something that didn't seem nefarious and evil.
No.
He was like, we're here for the beginning, right? Not the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to, my interpretation from what he said, he's trying to bring an end to the cycle of the
empires,
the tyranny, war, rebellion, wash, rinse, repeat cycle. He wants to bring that to an end, and by any means necessary.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we get into the season itself as an overview? I think we've kind of already been doing it anyway.
Yeah, sort of.
But we have two more surprise guests who just joined us. We have the very lovely Allison Troy. Welcome, Allison. And we have Michael from Toy Habits.
Hey.
Hey.
Kindly joining us tonight. Thanks y'all for coming. I think, let's just start with our overall thoughts of this season. Try to keep it somewhat short since there are now 8 of us. So everyone gets their thoughts in.
8 is
Johnny,
enough.
do you want to go first? Overall thoughts of the season?
Sure. I dug it. It was cool. Didn't feel like a season finale. The thing that gets me, and it's weird because I feel like we kind of expect that these Disney Plus shows and whatnot are going to be one season, but then fucking Mandalorian's been 3. But we, at least I'm thinking of Loki, because going into Loki, I think we all thought Loki's going to be one season and then it's going to be done. And then they didn't wrap up. But at the very end, they're like, Loki will return. Like they announced season 2 as soon as the credits rolled on the first season. I kind of wish they would have done that here. I mean, I think it's obvious that there's going to be more of this story. It's not done. Whatever form that takes, it'd be nice to have confirmation of it. But I'm wondering now, as I'm talking, stream of consciousness, if the strikes kind of played into them not saying anything about what might be coming because they don't know for sure what's going to happen. That could be an aspect of it. Maybe there's announcements that they haven't been able to make until the strikes get resolved. Because nobody can talk about them. Like
season 2 is not locked yet. Let's be clear. There have been speculation, but there's nothing officially announced. But we know there is a movie coming, at least from Filoni.
Well, yeah, and Thanos says this that he thinks there was one more season before the movie. I haven't heard anything about more seasons, but I've heard rumblings now that one movie may end up being a trilogy. Like, but nobody really knows. Nobody knows anything. It's all speculation and rumor, and you know, any asshole with a keyboard can put something out there, and sometimes it sticks, and it snowballs and gets out of hand. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I dug it. Next.
Okay. I'm going to go down. I'm going to kind of do I'm just going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Kevin, you go.
You're just going to go snakes and ladders across the...
Yes. Thank you. Shoots and ladders.
Shoots? What did I say? Snakes and ladders. Is that a Canadian thing? Snakes and ladders.
Maybe.
Is it
shoots and ladders?
I don't know. Adam knows.
We have snakes and ladders.
Yeah.
We have shoots
you guys
and
don't
ladders.
Have snakes in the States?
No, it's shoots and ladders in the States.
They don't have snakes.
Yeah. I've only ever heard of shoots and ladders.
You said Ireland?
Time.
Get these shoots off my mother effing plane.
Just on planes. No snakes on the ground, just on planes.
Yeah. Season was, I think, overall really great, being able to tie in again like a new, basically a continuation of Rebels, but also bringing in so much of the prequel stuff with Anakin and Clone Wars. It was a little bit of a slower start, I think. Like it could have been cut down a little bit or add more stuff. Like just the first few episodes didn't feel like it moved much, but ultimately the final product and then the last, I guess the second half of the series really brought it with I don't know, with whatever stories and plot twists they had. Some story points didn't get really tied up, but that's okay. I feel like when we watch these series, it's like, oh, we'll see if they explain it next week. And then we'll see if they do that. Well, we didn't get that. Let's see if they do it again next week. And then by the time you get to the end, it's like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of loose threads. But you guys were saying earlier, that's Star Wars. And, they'll get somebody in 10 years to tie those together. We're like, genius, it's so good.
Someone will fill in those gaps eventually.
There you go. But overall, Andor, I think, and then this series for me, for Disney Plus.
Same. Allison, real quick. Thoughts on the season?
Like I've said elsewhere, having a hard time remembering everywhere because we all have been on all the places on the webs talking Ahsoka. It's what we do. It's still probably of all of the Disney streaming stuff, it's still the most Star Wars of it to me, where I feel that like rush, that excitement. And that continued with that, like in general, when they first introduced the concept of magic and witches in Star Wars, during the Clone Wars, I was kind of like, and then when I sort of read that we might be getting some zombies in Ahsoka, I was like, but I will say that with how Star Wars it is, like I just sort of rolled with it in Ahsoka. Like I 100%, and I was going over sort of notes I had made watching the last episode, and this is I mean, I know my handwriting, so obviously I can tell I wrote this sarcastically, and it's like, yay, Star Wars zombies. And then next, magic, I don't know.
You write sarcastically?
Yeah, I write in cursive.
Oh, I do too.
I write in cursive when I'm being sincere. ish. And whenever it's sarcastic, it's like capital, like all print, all sort of every other there's exclamation. I don't use exclamation points. Nothing is that exciting. So that right there tells me it's sarcasm. Anyway,
I use
not when I'm writing notes to myself.
She can type sarcastically too.
Oh yeah, you've seen it in chat. You all have seen it in chat. Well, if I'm typing in chat, it's probably sarcastic. But I also read the feeling of when they're, like when the witch with the magic sword thing, whatever that was, we'll have a name next week, and there'll be 17 toys that we all will want.
Oh yeah.
But when she was sort of going out and giving that pep talk to the stormtroopers, I was like, "Go Team Witch!" It was just such a visceral moment, like between the Star Wars music and like. Yeah. And for me, that has happened throughout Ahsoka, where it's like the music is on point, even though it's not John Williams. They've taken the right cues from John Williams to make it feel like Star Wars. We have a budget on this. Like even Obi-Wan, there were points where I'm like, gosh, where is Disney? Come on, throw some money at this. It's Star Wars. It's not Star Trek. Throw some money at this stuff. And it's Obi-Wan. You've got, like Vader and Obi-Wan. Throw some money at this, guys. You're back on Tatooine again, but throw some money at it. I never felt that with Ahsoka. I never had a moment where I'm like, wow, they phoned this CGI in, which has happened in most of this Disney, even for Mandalorian. I was like, well, that's what we're going to get for streaming, so I guess it's okay. I didn't have that feeling throughout Ahsoka, and I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, "Well, there was some bad."
Say that out loud, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly, Kevin. It felt like a movie that was just in 8 or 9 episodes instead of. It felt like a TV show trying to be a movie, which even The Mandalorian at times. My one disappointment was we did not get the scene of somebody like coming up to Hera and being like, "General Leia just reported that wolves ate Cara Dune." I was disappointed about that because I'm waiting for something to happen to Cara Dune and us to find out on scene, like on screen, that it happened off screen. We've not got it, so that for me is the biggest dropped thread throughout Streaming Plus universe, that Cara Dune has not yet been properly killed off screen as befits the character. But otherwise, my final thought was after Ahsoka, I definitely want more Star Wars. I'm still not a Filoni like fangirl where I'm like, oh my god, he is the second coming, because the second coming of George Lucas was the prequel, so we all know where that goes anyway. But I was happy. I want more Star Wars that feels like Star Wars, even when it's not Star Wars. Like the magic and the zombies, not very Star Wars to me, but it felt like Star Wars enough where I'm like, yeah, we can roll. So more of that.
Love. Michael, what about you?
Yes. Oh my god, I totally agree with Allison. Just around like this was the most Star Wars I've felt in a Disney Plus animated series, and I loved it. It's like the use of CGI, or if they were using like physical models too, I thought that was amazing. And it really just harkened back to the original trilogy for me. And just having seen pretty much all of the animated series and all of the Star Wars movies, just seeing the arc of Anakin to where he is now. Like, if you want to see a grown man cry, just put on the last 3 seconds of the last episode. I actually paused it and stared at it for a very long time. I don't know why I get emotional about it, but I do. But
nostalgia.
Yeah. But overall, I thought the entire season, like, I didn't mind that it started slowly, because I think there were certain parts for me that were a slow burn in a good way. But a lot of it ties the original trilogy together, the prequels, the animated series. And I thought Rosario Dawson was absolutely amazing. She works so hard and is amazing what she can do with a lightsaber. I was like, holy crap. Because she doesn't have a stunt double, right?
Ass. She does have a stunt double.
Oh, okay. But but I think a lot of the saber actions are her. But yeah, I mean, I would have a stunt double too if I was in the movie. But I think The thing that I enjoyed the most was seeing the animated series being adapted to live action. So could you imagine if they ever redid the Clone Wars in live action? That would be insane.
Wow.
And I wouldn't put it past Disney because they're making a lot of their cartoon movies in live action.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is this a something that's going to come later, maybe in 10 years or less? But I thought Ahsoka's story was like more fleshed out, and man, Thrawn is very fearful of Ahsoka, and it's the first time that I've seen I guess reference. There's a lot of references to Anakin training Ahsoka, and that's the first time in this season that I really get like, oh, actually, yes, she was trained by Darth Vader. She's a badass. So yeah, I absolutely loved it and just want more and more and more.
Love. Adam, what about you?
I loved it. I'm gonna sort of echo the last two people in that it felt like Star Wars. It felt more like Star Wars than anything we've seen in a long time, which, doesn't take anything away from Andor, because just like Kevin, I think Andor is maybe my favorite thing that we've gotten recently, because it's different, because it's sort of the grown-up Star Wars. But this is, like I mentioned, like when my kid was like pointing out to me that like lightsaber battles, like this is Star Wars, right? It's lightsaber battles, it's mysteries. It, as much as we're sort of harping on the fact that there's a bunch of unresolved story plots and threads and things like that, isn't that the original trilogy in a nutshell? Like, isn't just dropping references to things and then coming back to them 30 years later what Star Wars has always done? So yeah, I can nitpick the series objectively in terms of those little things, but I loved it, and I want more. And the magic, the I, in my notes, which are on my phone, which I'm using as my camera, I think I wrote like, magic / the Force, like this sort of unexplainable thing. It's sort of the first time in a long time where there is mystery involved, where there is, imagination. What I found quite interesting is that, in the original trilogy, Obi-Wan comes back and he's, there's not Jedi around in the original trilogy, because that's sort of post Order 66 and stuff. So the idea of Jedi is more of a myth. It's more of a legend. People have heard about it, but they've never seen it. So it's like, it's storybook type stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got the impression that a lot of these characters in Ahsoka felt the same way. People keep saying like, oh, how did Thrawn know, how did Thrawn sort of make that connection between Ahsoka and Darth Vader? I'm not convinced he did. He's told that Ahsoka was trained by Anakin, but he doesn't go, oh yeah, Darth Vader. I think there's still a disconnect. There's still mystery, and I like that, right? Like I want there to be more of this, right? I'm saying I wish they tied up some of the threads, but I want Star Wars to just keep going. I want more. I don't ever want there to be an end of the story.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I absolutely love this.
Yay. Keep going. Don't stop. Yoko, what about you?
I mean, for me, Ahsoka is hands down my favorite of the Disney Plus content, easily. That 5th episode is probably my favorite piece of Star Wars, period. Kevin, stop it. Ahsoka lives in me, not in you.
Ahsoka lives in me too.
She was literally
he won't interrupt anyone but me.
I won't interrupt anyone I don't know.
Told that by Ashley Eckstein. No big deal.
Yeah. The highlight.
I cried watching that video.
Oh. But no, like
nothing for you.
No.
She's crying different kinds.
Let her finish talking.
I know. I barely started.
Before she gets back into it, can I just ask, Yoko, is this your favorite Star Wars because Ahsoka is? Because I think everybody knows that Ahsoka is your favorite. Was it your favorite because Ahsoka is your favorite, or because of like this is sort of your favorite Star Wars?
Ahsoka and Rebels is my favorite Star Wars story too. But I think like for me, like, you know, I wanted to see World Between Worlds. They gave me World Between Worlds. I wanted to see a tie into the Mortis arc. They gave me that. I wanted to see Anakin. They gave me that. You know, I wanted to see Force Ghost Kanan. They didn't give me that. But you know, never say never. But you know, it's like it gave me it gave me weird hermit turtles that I didn't know I wanted, but you know, but they were amazing. Like, so for me, like it, you know, it checked all these boxes. Oh, then they gave me the Night Sisters. I didn't know I was going to get them too, and that was amazing. So it's just like being all these like niche elements of Star Wars that I loved. They brought them all into this show, I feel like, and like, you know, it's amazing. And I think they have to give us a season 2 before the movie. I think they need to give us another Mandalorian season before the movie. It'd be great to get stories about Thrawn and some of these other characters too, all as build up to the movie. So I think they have to. I don't think they can go straight into the movie. I think there's too many other stories to tell, and I think that is the beauty of Star Wars, is that there are so many stories to tell.
Yeah, love that. Hermit turtles. They're also called Hobbit turtles or Crab Hobbit turtles.
They have a name now. They're actually like
the naughty.
The
naughty. I call them naughty.
Naughty.
I call them naughty, spelled like that. I just typed it in.
Naughty.
Rick, naughty. What about you?
Despite like picking little things, like I love Star Wars. Like it was, you know, I've said before, as far as like people talking about like, what's your toy history? Like I was born into a house that, or at least I became conscious in a home with an older brother who loved Star Wars. So like, as I kind of grew up, oh, there's Star Wars toys here. It just sort of was, or Star Wars bed sheets. And so like
I still have Star Wars bed sheets.
I'm all about it and I love it. And I think like what Adam was saying, like I love all Star Wars. Like even when I didn't like Star Wars, I still loved it. When I didn't like the prequels, I was like, yeah, but this is the story and it totally makes sense and it works out. I just don't like the way maybe they executed it, which I think is a thing that I say often now with Star Wars, is that, yeah, they're like little bits and pieces. And I wish they did this. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's Star Wars. I love the sort of world. I love the galaxies. I love going to Batu. I love all of it. And I think as far as like what I appreciate about this show, especially is because, well, actually all of the Disney Plus shows, is that it reminds us, if we can pause as fans, that like Star Wars is not one thing. Like it can be a thriller. It can be a deep, dark, sort of rebellion story. Like how do you wage revolution in the midst of like tyranny and an empire? But it can also be like a fantastic storybook journey that like of mythic proportions. Like, and I love that. And I think if fans can maybe stop trying to be like, no, this is not the right Star Wars. This is, I think we can be in it for the long haul. Like if people can just be open to this world. And as far as like the Force goes, that's my favorite part. The notion of the Force. Like always sort of like, I go back to this notion of like, it's the force that binds us all, right? And all living beings, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, that's what sort of ties all of this together. And I always kind of like step back a little and I'm like, oh yeah, the force kind of puts you where you're supposed to be. We heard that in this show, right? I keep thinking about like all the people in Andor. It's like, no, they put Andor there. Like they need Andor because Andor becomes important to the story later to help destroy this thing. And oh yeah, Jyn Erso is important. And then you get to the point where you're like, wait, all these people are important? I thought it was just Luke. It's like, no, the Force is about everybody. Like the Force is trying to tie all of us together in the hopes that we'll reach this notion of like balance between light and dark. Anyway, I love it. And clearly I take it way too seriously. So that I love the show. I love the show.
And surprise, we're about to get one more person's opinion on this season. Welcome, Ken.
Toy connections.
We're out of control now.
Welcome.
So everything Brick said is absolutely 100% correct, and I have absolutely nothing to add to that because I'm just gonna piggyback on all his comments. You know, when you're sitting at
That's
school
how
and
I
like,
always feel.
you know, when you're in an exam and you just copy the person next to you, you know, and they only get 97%, and the 3% you get wrong is the exact same 3 questions, and the teacher kind of goes, "Well, I really shouldn't give you an A plus, but I will." That's just what happened with everything Brick just said. So anyway, that's my introduction to the stream. Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining us, Ken.
No other overall thoughts on the season of Ahsoka? Someone didn't already say.
I finished it this morning, so I'm kind of like behind the 8 ball on the party. Other than that, it's like, is there going to be a season 2? Like, they've left a lot to desire.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think there's gotta be eventually either season 2 or it gets resolved in a movie, because clearly they left a lot of things up in the air. But yeah, I feel like I don't have much else to add that everyone else didn't already say. You did get a question though from Michael Brick. Knowing what you know now,
about this tomorrow.
why don't you just ask this to him personally?
Yes. So I've experienced this. I was not a fan of the prequels, but then I have started to watch all of the other media, and then I went back to the prequels, and I was like, they're not actually that bad, and I can look at Anakin in a different light as not somebody who is evil or, you know, has this dark soul in him, and it's really changed for me. So I was wondering if that has also changed your perception too.
I think with the prequels, for me, it's really about the execution. The overall story, I'm for it. Like, okay. I love the storytelling, and I think what this show in particularly did, which I thought was really great, was that it. I feel like Lucas had some real clear intentions when he told Filoni, like, "Oh, there's gonna be he has a Padawan," right? And I think. They've told that story a lot when Filoni's like, no, there's no Padawan. He's like, no, Anakin had a Padawan. And so I feel like this really kind of closed that loop. That moment where he gets to give her one last lesson was super big for me. I don't know if it was on this show or on Shiny Plastic People, where I was like, toss the saber, that whole thing where it's like, where they were in this battle with one another. I know, because to me, that's the lost part. That's the lost part of really, at the end of the day, when people talk about like Jedi are badass and they fight, it's like, we've heard it said time and time again. It's like, no, Jedi are badass because they know when to not fight, or they know like the limits of fighting. And so really, like, Star Wars for me, it's that moment in Return of the Jedi. Like, when we're talking about this whole buildup of like, Luke is going to restore balance to the galaxy. It's like, well, what's he going to do? And you get set up for this notion that he's going to defeat his father. He's going to go battle him. At the end of the day, he defeats his father by refusing to fight him and literally taking his saber and throwing it. And I go back to like, when the folks who don't like The Last Jedi, they get upset that the first thing Luke does when Rey hands him the sword and says, hey, like, Snoke is coming and all this stuff, like, we need you, and she's like, come fight. And what does he do? And it's like, it's totally in character. He goes, nah, y'all didn't learn the lesson.
He would never do that.
Right, you didn't learn the lesson.
He
and then
did it before.
And then at the end of the movie, it's like, what did you think? I was going to show up here and like fight the First Order with my laser sword? And it's like, no, he didn't. He actually showed up to not fight so that folks could get away. And so, like, when I look at that, I think they needed to tie Anakin to that, I think, a little bit more. And I feel like because he saw his son do that, he learned that lesson, and he's like, ooh, I need to teach this last thread, my Padawan, this important lesson. And my hope in my head is that somehow we're going to find out that Ahsoka, or something that she does, maybe she gets together with Luke later, and I don't know, something like shifts their thinking around the Jedi that hopefully later Rey picks up on. And so as she creates this new Jedi Order, that it is a little bit more mindful of that. Because, sorry to go back, the prequels, I think that's what Lucas was trying to show us. What led to the downfall of the Jedi? Why were they so quote unquote bad back then? It's because they actually joined the fight. They became like soldiers, right? So toss the saber. Like, so to me, it didn't so much change it, but it was like, yay, I feel like it kind of helped close it a little and put this glue together. And just the scenes between Anakin and Ahsoka were like, you're right. Like I felt the same quote unquote grown man, old man crying, but it was also during that scene when they were together. It was like, ooh, I felt like I went back to The Last Jedi again when Yoda tells Luke like as teachers, like we got to learn from our mistakes, and they're the ones they're the ones who are going to sort of teach us. And I feel like Anakin got taught a big lesson from his son, and that he had to kind of do that for her, but actually it was her life and what we saw, that it was her living this child soldier life, and sort of him kind of having to relive the fact that he himself was who brought her into this life, and he himself was the one who was telling her like all this vile stuff, like, no, be a soldier, be ready. And at the end of the day, she realizes like she had to kind of teach him again. It's like, nah, dude, I'm not going to fight you. And then we get that resolution. And anyway, sorry, chills again, nerd chills. I love this stuff.
Can we get into the toss the saber stuff? Because I know that Brick says it all the time, but I completely agree with it. But I would go a little bit further with it, actually.
In what regard?
I'm asking. Are we doing that? Or how long do we have?
Yeah, totally. I don't want to keep everyone forever, and also want to hear everyone's opinions. So let's get into more of predictions for next season / movie, just whatever is going to be next for Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra and Heron's story. This can be more of like a free for all, but I mean, does anyone have any predictions at all? Because I pretty much after like the 4th episode, I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen in the next episode. They just like completely blew my mind every time. Like, I feel like everything I had seen online that was theorized or predicted to have happened in the next episode did not happen.
Yeah, it was all wrong. Everything that people were saying was wrong.
Well, where was Zeb? Where was Zeb this whole time? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so he was training
recruits.
It'd be nice to see him, right?
In like episode 7, when Sabine and Ezra are talking about what's going on.
You assume I was sober in episode 7, which is a big assumption, Adam. You know me better than that. But anyway, yeah. I mean, Ezra really only got half a series.
Everybody's doing.
Zeb was trying to rescue Cara Dune on the Wolf Planet. So,
okay, we'll run with that.
Yeah,
we'll run with that.
Okay.
He'll be the one who delivers the news and season 1.
But there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential with Ezra, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. That was pretty epic. Him just like coming back on the ship, and Chopper knew who he was. That was so cute. He was just like, "Oh yeah, that's Ezra."
He's my buddy. I love that he came back in a stormtrooper uniform. It's like that's his jam.
Very Ezra.
Helmets.
I'm gonna disappear for 9 years and show up with a beard, and I'll be like, oh, screw that guy. We forgot him. We thought he disappeared into the ether. I mean, he's sitting here hoping for an Ezra type of reunion, but
he was pretty well kept for being away for 8 years.
So yeah.
He must have had something to cut all of it.
Did Ezra arrive on that ship in the same ship that arrived? Was that the same ship that? Okay, wait. That was Baylan and Shin's shuttle. Was it arriving in the same docking bay that it did in episode 1? And so wouldn't they have been like, oh shit?
Maybe
that might explain why they.
Yeah. Holy shit.
But I didn't connect it. It was the same model. It was for like that Clone Wars like separatist.
Well, it was their ship because he would have stolen it off of the Chimera.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Did
now why he was in that night trooper we'll probably never know why he couldn't have just walked off the ship in his own clothes. I'm kind of confused by, but
it's what Ezra does. That's
Dramatic
why he
Yeah.
was dragging the body away, right? Because when he knocked that trooper out and he was grabbing him, he was like, he's gonna take his armor.
But
and that's what he does.
He means literally walking onto the ship, though. Like he could have taken off before walking off. And
yeah, I mean that's
you can fill in the gaps, right?
Before he walked on the ramp.
No. I mean literally walking onto the ship. Like he saw Hera and everyone.
Yeah.
Like he could have taken off before walking off instead of them freaking out that he was a night trooper.
But I'm more surprised that they let that shuttle land.
I was gonna say, and this is where we can get into the whole Star Wars thing, where like if we nitpick any story, really, it's like if we're looking for logic in a place that has laser swords in the Force, like, but it's true. Like, why would they let him? Why would they blast it out of the sky? And then, it was a little weird. But that said, somebody else.
Episode 1 set the tone for that. You know, that captain being way too cocky. So it's like, is it that far fetched? So
no, it's not at all.
With Hera there,
and that's why they were all armed and ready to go. But it's just funny because like clearly they did it for dramatic effect for him to still be wearing. Yeah. But
that's a good point, it was a nod to Rebels, I think.
No, absolutely.
Yes. No, like him wearing it, like we figured it out once he moved the body away.
Not everything has to have a logical explanation, you know? Sometimes it's just what it is.
It's
and
just
also
fun,
like
dramatic.
I think Adam was saying, why wouldn't he change back into his clothes? Like we're assuming that he's wearing anything under that armor, and maybe that's all he had.
That's true.
There's no underwear in space
I
according
mean...
to George Lucas.
Everybody goes commando.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we're talking about Ezra, though, you know what I want to see is I want to see Ezra
shower
an apprentice, and his apprentice will be Grogu.
I would love that.
You don't think it's gonna be Jason?
I'd love that.
I think it's gonna be Jason.
Jason would be full circle.
Yeah,
I just feel like it would be. That's nice, you know, and that makes sense. It's poetic.
If they want to
combine... like because of Ezra's like connection with creatures, though, you know, like that's why Grogu to me made sense that he'd be able to communicate with Grogu better than others. Maybe
he could train both of them.
Yeah,
change the rules.
Jason needs his permission form signed by Carson Tave of his stepdad first before he can get training. So.
That's true.
Yeah, can't forget that. That's important.
Yeah, that's what I predict. For the
you just mentioned Grogu, and this is something I don't know if we talked about this before, but like if you look at all the Disney Plus shows and the recent video games, they all deal with child soldiers from the post-Order 66 and Clone Wars era. Grogu was one of those child soldier Jedi sort of during that era. Cal Kestis was also Caleb Doom, Kanan Jarrus was also what's her name that becomes the Inquisitor, Reva was also right. So it's like this, it's just interesting to me that like there's this whole period where that they kind of re-explored, and then they ended. Ended. Maybe they're going to continue, but they brought us back to Ahsoka, who was like the child that we actually sort of saw of them all grow up in this period, and so. I don't know. There's just something about that makes me wonder, again, what's going to happen with the sort of future of the Jedi. And it makes more sense to me now. Maybe like again, if Ahsoka maybe broke it down with Luke, and they were kind of talking about like everything that's happened and everything they've seen. If maybe that's why Luke is like removed himself at a certain point, in addition to almost killing his nephew. But anyway,
my prediction is that we're going to see Jason, we're going to see Grogu, Shin's going to come back somehow.
Oh no!
And we're going to get a kids animated series in the vein of Teen Titans Go. It's going to be like Jedi School with all these kids.
I would watch that.
And we're going to get Ezra as a teacher. We're going to get Ahsoka as a teacher.
It's like X-Men.
It's going to be nonstop comedy, and everyone's going to hate it except for kids
and me.
I was so happy you went there.
Like, I want it. What the hell?
Are they going to have a shrimps and prime rib?
Probably.
That would be great.
But the only problem, this is where I was worried, this is where I thought you were going, but I won't go there, is that the Jedi Order and the training would have been under Luke. And so that means at some point, Kylo Ren's going to be with them, and they're all going to be classmates, and at some point, they're all going to die.
Yeah, first episode is Leia and Han dropping Kylo Ren.
Oh, not in the kids one. Okay, got it.
That would be the entire kids animated series. It starts with Leia and Han taking Ben to the new Jedi training school, and
it'll be like first day of school. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll get like 4 or 5 seasons of lightheartedness, and then in season 6 and 7, Kylo starts having a not so good day.
It's gonna be like real. Andor.
Yeah, and then we get a lesson about school shootings. So yeah.
Oh no.
Oh boy. Sorry, too soon. Full circle. I'm still a little traumatized.
Yeah, right.
Allison.
I'm just saying that's the direction. Like.
Anyways. What about specifically for Balin and his story? Like, obviously the Mortis gods are going to be involved somehow, but I mean, any predictions specifically with that?
Or I don't want to predict anything. I just want that to happen.
Fine.
No, but what I mean by that is like, I think we get ideas of what we want, and then that's what leads to like, that's not what I wanted, and that's why I'm upset. I want to see that 100%, but I don't want to set any expectations. I don't want to have an idea of like what might happen, because I think it's going to be great, and I'm going to probably love it because that's my default setting for Star Wars, and so I'm not going to read the Reddit thread of like what's going to happen. I'm not going to read about who's getting recast. I'm not going to read about, what the plot line is going to be. I really want to see it. Yeah. I hope they do kind of a spin-off on that planet or like in that galaxy. They've set it up. So I would love to see that.
Yeah, there's an extra wrinkle to that one because of, unfortunately, Ray Stevenson passing away and not being able to continue as Balin, and whether they decide to recast or if they go in a different direction. So that's hard to predict which way they're going to go with that in particular.
And if that happens, do we want him to be recast? This is something we talked about before.
He has to be, I think.
I mean, he has to be, but or does he just like he can't be written off at this point? Obviously,
no. They had enough time since he passed and the airing of this episode that if they were gonna like write him out, they didn't have to include that last scene of him, and they could have altered it some way. So I think I would think they would, and it's all conjecture, who knows? You would think that they are going to plan on continuing that, but it's hard to say.
I would love to find out they filmed season 2 already,
And that would be great. They did it back to back in secret.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be fantastic.
I've been wishing that for House of the Dragon for like a year now, and it hasn't dropped. But sorry for the change.
Can someone remind me what Balin's endgame is, if we know that yet?
I don't think we knew for sure entirely. He wants to bring about the beginning.
Yeah.
I think we needed a boss Jedi, like boss evil dark Jedi of some sort, and I think that's all his purpose was.
If you watch it back, I'm not totally convinced that he's bad. Like
that's what I said. Yes.
Yeah. I think
he has a different purpose.
Just using. Yeah.
He's middle of the road. It's like people will argue that if you use the term gray Jedi, there's no such thing as a gray Jedi, but it gets the point across easily. Somewhere between Jedi and Sith is gray Jedi, and that seems to be where he's going to slot in. He's not black or white, he's shades of gray.
But I think that's the world that exists post Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
That the Jedi and the Sith are obsolete, outdated terms now. We've moved past that. We've moved to like an era where we don't necessarily know, because what we've kind of gotten from you know, the sort of Sith Jedi wars is that they were fighting against each other. What we got from the prequel is that, you know, having those absolutes doesn't work. And what we're getting now is that everyone's somewhere in between.
It's also important to note that Sith and Jedi are terms that refer to a specific orders. So
yeah,
for Jedi, there is no Jedi Council left. So we may have Jedis running around, but none of those Ahsoka left, so she's not a Jedi. She was removed, so she may be behaving. She's using the Force. She's using the light side of the Force, but she's not actually a Jedi. Ezra's not a Jedi. There's no Jedi order to imbue him with that title. And the same with the Sith. The way the Sith works is Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine, was the Sith Lord. Vader was his apprentice. They both bought it on the Death Star. There's nobody, even if Palpatine had 2 or 3, apprentices in waiting. And based on what we know of him, yeah, he probably did. But none of them are actually Sith Lords because he never officially replaced Vader. So he never bestowed that title on anyone. I mean, perhaps on Exeter, where he has somehow returned, maybe he has bestowed that, but none of the people who are using the dark side in any of the Disney Plus shows set post Return of the Jedi have, as far as we've seen, have been bestowed by the returned Palpatine. So there are no Sith, there are no Jedi within the order. There are people who used to be Jedi who survived the purge, but there's no council. Jedi is not, and I think this is sort of even where fans we often get. I think George Lucas got confused on this point a couple of times based on how he presents everything. But you're not a Jedi unless you are official. Luke is technically not a Jedi. I mean, we could say like Obi-Wan and Yoda were council members at one point. So yeah, they could call him Jedi and it would count. But Luke, so far as we've seen, has never been given the authority to make a Jedi. So perhaps that's part of why his quote-unquote Jedi Academy failed, is because he's trying to teach, he's got these books that Rey later takes, and it's worth noting Rey didn't find a lot of use in the Jedi texts. I would assume at least one of those books was like, like meeting minute. This is how you count the meeting minutes when the Grand Council, like stuff like that. Like half of it's going to be organization stuff about, all Padawans should eat all of their vegetables and be in bed by 9 p.m. Coruscant. I think we overlook, and it's sort of that's the sort of real world stuff that bores people, but ultimately that's how it works. It's like, like the example, because it's sort of similar, the Knights Templar, they were completely, and there are all of these sort of groups that run around who claim a lineage from them, but the main Knights Templar are gone, so there's nobody who can actually bestow that title upon you. So I think a lot of people are talking Jedi Sith, but it doesn't actually, there's no one to make you a Jedi, there's no one to make you a Sith. Those are defunct, obsolete, old world terms that no longer apply. You're either doing good things with the Force or you're doing bad things with them. And I think for me, that's how Baylan came across. He knows he's using the dark side of the Force, but he's not trying to be a Sith Lord. And I think maybe some of the disconnect between him and Shin is she very much seems to be wanting to go that direction at times. And I think that's sort of why Luke is, like, obviously this is me giving some of the what I consider were story shortfalls of the sequel trilogy, trying to give it some depth. Maybe that's why Luke is in isolation the way he is. He can't actually make Jedis even if he had the desire at this point, because he doesn't have that authority. He, there's no way to give it to him, no matter if Yoda and Ben made him a Jedi or not. So anyway.
Real quick, just sorry, go ahead, Kayla.
1 second. Yoko, do you have to go?
Oh, I mean, I don't have to go like right this second, but I do need to
okay.
Here's you. Yeah.
Okay. yeah, if you want to finish up your thought, I don't know if anyone has anything else really pressing, but then we can get into the that's what they said and the memes. You guys can cut after the that's what they said if you want, or you don't have to stay for it either way.
Yeah, I'll stay for that. Yeah.
Okay, I sent it on Insta, everyone. If you want me to email them to you, let me know. If you want to get them prepped, because I know some of you are using phones, so I can email them. Go ahead, Brick.
Sorry, I thought we were just gonna move on, but no, just the question as to
You
whether or not the
can.
Jedi are there. If I could just throw out that maybe like, I think I hear what Allison's saying, but I wonder if like that part of the mistake is the emphasis that like, oh, you can't be a Jedi unless you are blessed by the Council or whatever. I think part of the lesson is that we have to remind ourselves, and the characters need to remind themselves, and the galaxy needs to remind themselves about what actually makes Jedi Jedi. And I think that's where the whole tossing the saber thing comes in, because Luke doesn't say, my father was a Jedi and that's the problem, so I'm something else. He says, I am a Jedi like my father before me. And so like my sense is that they're kind of depending on Rey to kind of pick up the pieces of and like go back to maybe the essence, the important parts, and to go back to Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka was showing us that like when she tosses the saber and all that, I think that whole of her kind of looking back on her life and wondering, wait, what am I? What did I do in my life? Was I a child soldier? What is it being a Jedi? And she's even arguing with Anakin, like, no, there's got to be more to being a Jedi than this. So I don't know. I just think that there is a Jedi. It's just like, I think there's a realization that the way of doing that is kind of not the way we need to move forward. But anyway, just in defense of the Jedi.
That's a good point. Okay, well, that has been so much fun.
That's why we're here, Brick.
Yeah,
Geek
I mean,
the
we
fuck
can
out.
continue. We can
Geek
continue,
the
but
fuck
wanted
out.
to.
Let's come back to toss the saber after.
Right.
Yes, we'll get back to it, but I wanted to do that's what they said before people need to leave. So did everyone get it? Can everyone access it? See it? No.
I
Adam,
see it.
Do you want me to email it to you?
It says use latest app.
Yeah, I ran into the same problem.
Yeah, me too.
Where I had to get on this. You can't do it on the computer.
Yeah,
and he's using his
that's my
phone.
problem.
Yeah.
This is
where
it probably is. Yeah.
Do you want me to email it then?
Yeah, I'll send you my
Pony Express for me.
Actually, so who didn't get it? Who can't access? Michael and Adam. Actually, Johnny, can you? The email is being very weird and not letting me attach photos because I just tried doing it and it wouldn't even let me select them.
Okay. I'm just waiting for Johnny to make some wrestling references so I can let loose and
the people that got it can just kind of
do it.
I didn't, Ken. I don't know. I brought this up earlier. I had him on screen.
Yeah.
We were talking about Savage Opress, and I brought up Randy Savage.
This is all I got, but it doubles as a Joe and a wrestler, so it's all good.
Oh,
I saw him live at WrestleMania 7, y'all. Mm-hmm.
You did.
Yes, and the Undertaker's winning streak started at 7.
And Adam, I'm sending it to you on Messenger.
And the retirement match, Michael.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Michael, you and I just that'd be a waste if you and I did a wrestling stream because you're so much more in the Motu thing, Anyway.
Oh, is that a challenge?
I think just send it to Michael then, John.
Michael, we'll talk, Michael. Okay. Yeah. And thanks for letting me bug Toy Sorceress all week long. We did a collaboration recently.
You can bug her all day long.
Yeah, let me know if you want an early copy of that collaboration. But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to hijack Kayla's stream.
Why. No, you're fine. We need to figure this out anyways. I wanted to be a surprise because I didn't want y'all to see that's what they said were beforehand.
Oh, is this
all good?
I just texted it to you, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay.
I've got.
I don't know who's left.
Good to go.
You got him? All right.
There you go.
Oh,
all right. Okay. Good. I don't have to do anything.
Somebody messaged me. What's going on?
I was like, what the heck?
For some reason, my email was being shit and not even clicking on
Ken, do you have it?
I don't know if Ken does.
Thanks, Rick.
Sorry, Lawrence messaged me, and I'm just being sending a snarky message.
It's on Instagram.
Okay. All right. There's something on the Ahsoka wrap-up crew.
Yes.
Chat group.
All right.
Okay.
I got it.
Just make sure it sent it in not the right order for whatever reason.
It didn't.
So just
It
make
didn't.
sure
It went 2, 1, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
got
came to me
132.
213, but
Yeah, for some reason.
but follow your
Okay.
numbers, people.
Yes, follow
so
the
fun.
numbers. All
Pat's
right.
heard it. Pat's
We're just
heard
going to
it.
go in order of the screen to make it easy. Everyone, I mean, you don't have to say it in a seductive way, but it does make it better. All right. This is that's what they said. It's for Ahsoka season 1. And when I say in order, it'll be like Johnny, me, Brick, Kevin, Yoko, Adam,
Got
like
it.
left to right. All right, Johnny, go.
Snakes and ladders.
Yes, sir.
Give it to us.
Keep going.
She's not stopping.
Do as she says.
This is getting more exciting by the minute.
Perhaps this will help.
Are you sure you're up for this?
Sorry, Ken. Oh my god, that's perfect.
It just keeps coming. Spelled
Wait.
CUMMING.
Who said that?
It was like part of a sentence. I just cut off the end of it.
Okay.
I may have had a beer before this stream started. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
sorry,
okay.
Kayla. I'm sorry,
You're
Kayla.
fine.
I'm meeting like several people for the first time too. So it's like talk about first impressions, you know. You know.
It's a great first
No.
impression.
You know.
You did good.
Would you like to see it?
Keep working on it.
I see you still remember the basics.
Huyang. Let's try something else.
I'm not sure Lady Wren is ready for that technique.
That's so out of context.
I know.
By the way,
But I
we
was
do
gonna
this.
read it in context, and I was like, it's just Hu Yang again.
We do this with just the two of us on Trek Retrek, but with 9 people, it's fucking amazing. And that itself is
Yeah.
that's what they said.
Yes.
Nice. Well done.
Feel my presence.
Let's go again.
I'm gonna give this my best. So random.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Nice trick. Got any more?
I'm gonna try again.
Excuse me. Relax.
Watch me.
You'll thank me.
Thanks for joining the party, Carson.
He joined the orgy.
Was that Harris line?
Yes.
Mm.
Or anyone in the orgy.
One's never too old to learn.
We're doing it again. Awkward.
I haven't taught you everything yet.
You gotta keep up.
Keep it up.
I think that is one of the larger ones.
That's really good. What's this? Yeah, that'll do.
Get in there.
Man.
I don't know what to do with this one. You best come back inside. I don't know. I don't know the nuances.
Just do what comes natural.
Add a comma between
It'll
come and
come.
back.
It'll come. Just do it naturally.
It'll come to you.
I'm not making you a mod, Ken, just so you can ban the wolf.
You know what? You know I'm gonna see him in like 2 weeks. In person. I just want to see what
That's
he
your
says
own
there.
problem.
I know.
Just go, Allison.
All right. And you come just as Thrawn promised.
He's coming.
This is such a Palpatine line. She'll be of great use to us. Palpatine line, like. Anyway.
What kind of ride you got around here?
Tota, which is naughty for down.
I love it.
I gave you your subtitle.
Oh,
You
thank you.
did good.
Hey, another one comes.
He was a good master.
We are at your service.
I'm going to need more of that. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to need more than that. That's more on brand for me anyway. So.
Looks like you were a good student.
So you must be pleased.
Mm.
I have gained better control over my lightsaber. Alternative take. I have gained better control over my Schwartz.
Of course, the next one had to land on Kayla.
It was the Schwartz. Keep it up.
I'm doing the best I can.
Has this ever happened before?
We require a little more time.
We're in!
Yay!
Yay!
Oh, we did it. We made it through.
Thank you all for joining in that massive That's What They Said orgy. That was amazing.
Those last 5 were a story in 5 sentences.
Yeah.
There's some gold in there.
So did we successfully toss the saber?
Yes. We tossed the saber.
Got it.
Anyways, I know you guys have to get going. Thank you so much for joining us, Kevin and Yoko. Real quick before you go, would you like to tell everyone where they can find you, what you have coming up? Kevin, go first.
No, Yoko, go first.
Okay, Yoko, go first.
Ladies first. You can find me on Boba Squadron. I'm not sure when we'll return, but make sure you listen to Kev for an update on that. You can follow me at Yoko McCann on Instagram and YouTube, Live and La Vida Yoko on Twitch, and I'll be back to streaming soon.
Just followed you on Instagram, by the way, so keep it up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can I hook up Ernie a little
Adam,
bit
you drink.
and just say that are you now not the official Wednesday co-host?
Yes, I do co-host / hang out with Ernie on the Fallen Pet Chronicles on Wednesdays at 6:00 Pacific time. So go check out Ernie as well, who's not here because we have renamed this channel Get the Fed Out. So Fallen Pet is not allowed, not welcome.
You're welcome, Ernie.
Bring him up just to shut him down. I love it. I love it. Hey, remember that guy? Yeah, he's not welcome here.
He doesn't go here.
Oh, no.
That's
She doesn't even go
Your
here.
kind here.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Instagram idiot at Playing Around, and here on YouTube as well. And I do unboxing Thursdays every week at 9 p.m. Eastern. And thank you for having us. And Kayla, I don't know if anyone said it yet, but your eye makeup is awesome.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoyed you at SDCC, by the way, Kevin. So.
Oh man, thank you.
Know,
Yeah, I'm gonna be in.
He enjoyed you.
Oh, come on! The memes are over. The memes are over.
And you said it.
But that's what they
said
said.
it.
Okay, don't.
They're never over.
Let me back. There we go. Too much
What's
me.
happening? Okay.
Sorry,
I
I
don't
lost
know.
control for a second.
That's what they
Out of
said is already
control.
over. I don't get to say. No, I consider
It's
genuinely.
fine. No. All right. Anyways,
thank you guys
thanks
so much.
We're still gonna keep going,
Thank
but
you.
they have to
Thanks
bounce.
for having us.
Have a great night.
Thanks for
Peace, Kevin.
coming.
Good night.
Thank you.
Take care, folks.
Thanks for joining. All right.
All right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Tossing the saber, tossing the salad.
I was gonna say I've been saying it all night, and there wasn't one little. Yeah. Toss that saber. Well tossed sabers.
Yeah.
It's all
I
on the
mean,
wrist.
I feel like we've covered so much of it, and yet there's still so much more just because there is just so much to Star Wars.
Yeah. If I may
yeah.
propose a thing. So what I think we should do is we should do memes.
Okay.
And then wrap up Ahsoka.
Okay.
And then
that's
the official end of the stream, and then we'll just keep going for as long as people can stick around.
Yeah.
Because I had a thought.
I do have some trivia. That's
not real
trivia. It's literally 5 questions, and it's kind of a joke trivia. But do we want to do memes first?
Yeah, do memes and then your trivia, which I forgot to
Okay.
grab in my phone. So you're gonna have to handle that because I didn't even look up the note you sent me. Sorry.
I can screenshot and send to you on Discord.
Wait.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to handle that, Kayla.
Oh, I will handle that.
Get on up.
Don't you worry.
See how well you can handle it.
Let's do both hands.
Let's do memes.
Minimum 2 hands. I don't do anything less than 2 hands. Anyways, memes.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm just laughing to pretend I know what's going on, Brig. I don't know about you, but you totally blew my cover.
This is my personal spoilers without context for episode 8 because had to include some of my favorite things. I used to like Walking Dead and then it got a little old, but had to include the Argon. Yeah, I stopped after Negan. This is the Argonath from Lord of the Rings. If you don't know, get out of here. Yes, Walking Dead.
Kayla's laying down the law. If you don't know LOTR, GTFO.
And Ken is gone. And then Beric Dondarrion, who we finally figured out. His name. Oh
no.
Rolf!
Screw that other guy. Whatever. Screw that other guy. He didn't know none Lord of the Rings. He don't know Game of whatever. What's it called again, Ken? Ralph, you fail.
And then of course, the Night King, raising the dead. And then I started to make another one, and then I decided not to. He doesn't even need his saber to do it.
Nice.
Oh,
how did you find me?
Hang on.
Oh, what is it doing?
It's cutting off the bottom of the text.
How did you find me?
Grow your hair out, Sabine. Come on.
No, she's still hot. Oh, it was easy, really.
I know, but there's a difference.
Sound of complete and utter betrayal, and followed that.
Ouch.
Ken, in her long-haired state, she kind of didn't care. She was a little bit unkept, and then the transition is that she cuts her hair and she's kind of back on focus.
Mm-hmm.
In my sober state, I'm very high strung and care a lot. In my intoxicated state, I go on Kayla and Johnny's channel and I just vamp.
Anyways, this is Star Wars fans right now, and by Star Wars fans I mean me, because Shin Hottie spelled Hottie.
Okay, can I throw a wrench into that though? And this is
what?
It's still Ahsoka related. It's still Ahsoka related. Is there a parallel? We don't know how old she is, right? Is there a parallel between
Don't tell me that.
And Ahsoka and Anakin, Shin and Balin and Ahsoka and Anakin? Is she 14 or 15 years old?
Age ain't nothing but a number, baby.
No.
Ain't nothing but a heartache.
The actress is 30.
Agrees with you, but
okay. We're talking about the actress in real life. She's 30 or something like that. Anyways,
moving on.
Adam, I hate you. Moving on.
In space, no one can hear you skis.
Shin and Sabine stuck together in different galaxy. This is how we get slow burn Wolf Ren canon. They're my favorite space lesbians for real. Yes, they need to get together next season.
Yeah.
He's back on his bullshit. Exactly. Impersonating stormtroopers. Yes, and speaking of short hair, She trained with Kanan, Ezra, and then spent years training with Ahsoka, and has only just started to unlock the meager Force abilities after literally 10 years. But yeah, self-taught Mary Sue. Because yeah, people, I don't know if they've just forgotten about her training before,
Yeah, with the
or
Darksaber.
or
Yeah.
yeah, they've just completely forgot. So they're like, this
She's
came out of
technically
nowhere.
Mandalorian. Yeah.
I'm like, you can go suck a dick.
I mean,
Also-
even if they forgot about her training before, they talk about her training with Ahsoka in the show all the fucking time. I think it's
And then they're like,
mentioned
well-
every
They
episode.
capitalize on the fucking.
Well, not only that, but everyone who whines about it, they're not even using Mary Sue correctly, because Mary
Yeah.
Sue is a self-insert into fan fiction of a character who never existed before the fan fiction, who is an author self-insert. So unless Dave Filoni is a hot Mandalorian chick who does graffiti in space and has been on Rebels and stuff, like she can't be his self-insert. It's just people not understanding what they're talking about, because some dude on YouTube did a video and called Rey a Mary Sue.
Allison,
And
are you suggesting that there's an element of the fandom that doesn't use logic? And
I'm suggesting that while I
is
obviously
not qualified to use terms that they use.
I mean, there's a
I'm-
fandom menace and all, you know.
I'm suggesting that despite where I am right now at this moment, while there is a great democracy to anyone being able to put a video up on YouTube, sometimes that democracy fails whenever people,
Like in the Galactic Republic.
much like the Galactic Republic, and not only do you have decision by committee, but it's by committee who don't even understand what the terms are, but because one dude said it, are unhappy. There's some unhappy women who do, so there are plenty of people making unhappy, but they don't know, they're not actually using Mary Sue correctly. So whatever for them. Rey's not actually a Mary Sue. So poor Pool. No. Anyway.
Filoni. Exactly. We're at season 2. Y'all talk about Tolkien and Narnia and shit too much in your Ahsoka pods. Literally, Dave Filoni. Part 8: The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a nice pun.
And paste. Yes, I enjoyed it as well.
I think all of the
Of course,
titles
it's my
have been
ally. That's all I need. A few moments later.
homage.
A few moments.
Holy Mortis. Yeah, I think that was all of us. Ah! Right. Standing
was there
like
in
they
Mandalorian,
want
too.
to attract women. It's working. Yeah. I think it's attracting everyone, honestly. But yes, it's working.
Except Ken.
Yeah, except Ken. Me watching the Ahsoka finale tonight.
I mean,
Get in, loser. Huh?
Yes. Biggest,
The biggest
fatality in the Ahsoka finale is Ahsoka's Wakazashi lightsaber.
Yep. R.I.P.
Yeah, but Hu Yang's got a backup.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we established that. He's got the parts. It's no big deal.
The last 5 seconds of Ahsoka. I think that was you, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell my kids this is the Chronicles of Narnia. Yep. Can't believe it's over. This is where the fun ends. Not begins. And someone made this. I think it was actually posted by
that's fun.
That's really cool.
what was it, Fandom or something?
Yep.
I was like,
I used to
oh,
work for
so
Fandom.
good. Oh yeah, I think they posted it.
Yeah.
Did you post this?
Oh, it says Fandom in the bottom right.
Yeah.
Gosh, you do so much prep for your live streams. I'm like, I feel bad. Like you actually do more.
I
than
mean,
just...
this is the epic season wrap up, and we do memes, and that's what they said for every one of our Star Trek episodes. So this is just another day in the life.
I feel like such a slacker. I usually just call Brick and Adam. I'm like, hey, you guys talk. I'll take the view.
we also just figured out who on screen doesn't
clock
watch
that?
you
Did you clock
guys
that,
Star
Adam?
Trek episodes.
Yeah.
It's not so much about that. It's just about work.
Yes.
Like we're seeing it in real time versus like
Someone Doesn't watch.
Slacker. I know, slacker. I'm aware you put effort into every live stream, Kayla. Just seeing it in real time on camera is very different, you know. Seeing how the sausage is made with a capital S on sausage.
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 See how I deflected there very, very meaningfully?
It was pretty good. You could run for
okay.
politics with that sort of deflection.
Star Wars.
Good God, that's actually an insult in today's day and age. Like 10 years ago, that would have been the best compliment ever.
I don't think she was meaning it as a compliment.
It was a compliment. It was just it was with the back of my hand that I gave.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
I mean, you know, sometimes you have to use the back of the, you know.
Yes.
Take
Johnny,
that 10.
you look like you're about to say something.
I was going to transition to trivia.
Oh yes.
Who debuted on AEW this week, Johnny? There's your turn.
Who did what? Oh,
The old guy.
some dude named Adam Copeland that I've never seen before.
You think you know him?
I think I know him.
Their root beer is really good. I like it.
Hot dogs too.
Okay.
Hot dogs,
We
the
have
best.
5 questions. They're not serious questions. So I mean, do we want to
Yeah. And
how do we want to do this? Should
I don't know. This was
raise your hand? I don't know.
Me.
Yeah, whoever
Well, we
raises
had
their
little
hand
buzzers
first.
and stuff.
I know.
Yeah. This is
So
not
wait,
like
we've
River
got-
Teams where you can raise a hand, right?
I know.
We've got-
we can't do
Oh, I got you. Are you
I
asking,
figured it
how
out.
you're gonna signal? Okay, go ahead. I had a
Mhm.
thought too.
We have
Go for it.
5 questions
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh.
5 guests. So we
There we
just
go,
ask each
perfect.
person one.
Ooh, cool.
Okay, cool.
Brilliant.
Do you want to
That's
go
logical.
first and
Give me
ask
the easy
Rick?
one.
I was gonna
They're
say
all
next
really
time though,
easy.
you
They're
put an
jokes.
X in there, and the first person to hit it, and it gets picked up, it's the person who gets to speak. But anyways, next time.
Oh.
Good.
Ah, ooh, fancy.
I love
Okay.
games. Games are fun. But anyways, yeah.
Do we wanna
five.
That makes sense.
I mean,
No,
you guys will all know the answer.
Yeah. You want me to start asking Brick?
Yeah, go.
We'll go in
Yeah,
order.
go ahead.
Brick. And I'm listing out the choices, I think, because they're
There's
listed at
multiple
ABC.
choice.
Yeah. It's multiple
You won't
choice, so
need
it shouldn't be
them.
hard.
But I did them anyways because that's the funny part of this.
Brick, what is the name of the animal that Sabine was given for transport on Peridia? A. Rat, horse, bat, dog. B. Good boy. C. Howler. D. Bad dog.
I think it's E. A-Walk.
What's that?
It's been a long
Take it
time.
back.
What's that, Brick? What's that, Brick?
Judges,
Howler.
we'll accept it.
Yes. Correct answer.
That felt like a cop out, didn't it? When they're just like, yeah, take a howler. You're like, that's what they're called. Like of all
Yeah,
the
but it's spelled
I
like
know.
I was just gonna say.
HOELLWER apostrophe
But don't
It's
you
not
don't,
spelled like
but
that.
don't you get the impression that somebody was like Dave Filoni's like they're just like somebody writing it
Adam?
was like just call them howlers, and
Dave
somebody
Filoni
writing
was-
the script was like
Adam.
I can't think of a name.
Adam.
Something
Take
call it
it.
a howler.
Your
Adam.
boyfriend. Listen to your boyfriend.
Savage Opress.
I'm just.
that's exactly what
This
I'm
is
saying.
what happened. Filoni was looking in the mirror at his kick-ass boss wolf sweatshirt, and he's like, "We'll call them howlers."
What I'm saying is that they have a great proofreader who's very creative.
No.
Anyways, Michael,
Yeah,
are you ready?
so ready.
What are the names of the creatures Ezra is found living with on Peridia? A. Hobbits. B. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. C. Crab Turtle Hobbits. Or D. Naughty. Not spelled
Howler.
Naughty.
Naughty, 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 naughty.
You are
That's
correct.
my final answer.
Good job.
Thank
We need like applause.
Good dog. Good dog.
Good dog.
I'm not.
Allison,
Uh-oh.
what is the type of animal Sabine has a pet of at the beginning of Ahsoka? A. Lothcat. B. Sweet Angel Bibi. C. Fluffy Butt. Or D. Big Headed Pussy.
Oh, it's tough because 3 of those are completely not it, and one of them is. But I'm trying to decide if I have a good response that's funny, and I don't. So I'm just gonna go with A the right one? So yeah. Or was it one the right? Oh, whichever.
A.
One.
All of the above.
A, 2, and
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct. All right. Adam, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
You got it.
Who voices Hu Yang? A. Doctor Who. B. David Tennant. C. Scrooge McDuck. Or D. Barty Crouch Jr.
Harry Potter. What a deep cut.
That one's actually all of the above, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are technically correct.
Wow.
The
You're
best
technically
kind of correct.
Yes.
He is my third favorite Doctor.
Who's your second
I mean,
and
there's
first?
Yeah, who's your second and first?
The
The guy who played Daemon Targaryen.
The 11th, the 5th, then the 9th. Or 10th.
How do you know so much about Doctor Who and nothing about wrestling? We can't be friends anymore.
I thought we were talking about actual doctors, like the proctologists.
I was waiting for him to say a proctologist. Yeah, I was there with you, Michael. I'm like, it's a proctologist, right?
No, Doctor Strange, obviously. I mean, it's Doctor Strange, Doctor Octopus, and Doctor Doom. Come on.
Doctor Strange is right.
Two doctors in Star Wars. Two doctors in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Evazan and
who's the next one?
Bendu.
Bendu. Bend over.
Sorry, no, I was just saying that there were two doctors, right? Or is there another?
Kayla, since this is your thing, do you want to ask the last question or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, I guess I'll ask it. It's fine.
Yes.
Ken, you ready? What is the name of the circular ship used to travel in between galaxies? A. Nuva Ring. B. Eye of Sauron. C. Cock Ring. Or D. Eye of Scion.
I knew that was there. I knew that was there.
Kermit's dildo.
Wow.
All right, you're fired. Something Scion.
I can't unsee that now.
Good job. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, because if it was the Nuva Ring, nobody would have got through it. But there would have been uncontrollable hunger, irrational bleeding, and like a call to your doctor at 3 a.m. So.
And in Star Wars, it's pronounced Cock Ring, by the way.
It's from the moons of Cock.
Cocking glue.
It's like one big planet that like broke into smaller like specks and spots, and it's like two like moons that sort of jangle around it.
Those are not mountains.
Of course you like Damon. I mean, he's hot as fuck. So that checks out, Adam. That checks out. Anyways, any other Ahsoka thoughts? Star Wars, future of Star Wars after this? Thoughts?
It's looking bright.
Okay.
Kathleen Kennedy will be there for another 20 years.
Okay.
The sound of 1,000 nerds dying.
I know. I just committed a genocide. I apologize.
I have nothing to add other than may the force be with you. So lame. Always.
To the point of tossing the saber, okay? And this is
I like a good saber toss.
Luke did it in the Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. That was the first tossing of the saber, so to speak.
Could you show that action again? You got it.
Yeah, just like that with the rest. He's right.
That was in the anime
all
version.
The wrist.
More dramatic.
Yes.
But to like sort of to the point of the idea of the saber being tied to the Jedi and sort of the idea that you know, that a Jedi is somehow like incomplete without the lightsaber, right? I think it's false because, you know, the Jedi are peacekeepers. They're, like you said, Brick, they're not soldiers. They just sort of fell into that because they needed to in some respect. But going a little bit deeper and kind of going a little bit more into like where the Jedi come from, and what I mean by that is like where George Lucas kind of came up with the Jedi. It's steeped in samurai culture. It's steeped in Bushido. The Bushido code is not it. Like, people kind of think samurai are warriors, but samurai aren't inherently warriors. They're just skilled people that are honorable. Like, the whole idea of the samurai is that they're the most honorable among that culture, and by default they become the protectors because they learn, martial arts as one of the arts. They're also extremely proficient in tea ceremony, in calligraphy, and you name it. They specialize in everything. The idea that better a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, it comes from that idea, that sort of martial sort of prowess is esteemed, but it's not the be all and end all. What we've seen repeatedly, and like I said, it started with Luke, not wanting to fight in Return of the Jedi. But Kanan in Rebels says, a lightsaber doesn't make you a Jedi. So this is something that sort of predates what people think it predates, right? I think what Dave Filoni is doing is just re-emphasizing that this isn't something that came up, when Luke tossed the saber on Ahsoka. It's a recurring theme that the Jedi shouldn't be reliant on the lightsabers, and they aren't reliant on the lightsabers. The Force isn't sword fighting. The Force is...
You would have never had one in the original trilogy, and he was still the master.
I mean, it's a different type of sword fighting.
But we get Luke.
Sorry.
We get Luke that says I don't need this. We get Kanan that says you don't need this. We get Ezra that says I don't need this. We get Ahsoka that says I don't need this.
Yoda tells Ezra it too.
Yoda tells Ezra as well. Yeah.
Sometimes you win by not fighting.
The idea that, and maybe, maybe as a fan of the sequel trilogy, I'm sort of focusing that lens a little bit more than I should, but I completely agree with Brick. But maybe from like a different perspective. Like I said, Bushido, like, literally means like the way. It's not like it's not a martial art. Bushido is not a martial art. It's a way. It's a way of life. It is a culture. It is like it's a perspective on your existence. It's so much deeper than sword fighting. And as much as I love lightsaber battles, anybody can pick up a lightsaber and fight with a lightsaber. You can train with a lightsaber. It doesn't mean you're not a Force user.
Even Finn
can pick up a lightsaber. He may or may not be a Force user. Who knows? We might
even
get that
Halloween,
on. Broom Boy doesn't have a lightsaber, but he's a Force user, right? He pulls the broom.
Ezra in this show.
Well, I already mentioned that one, Brick.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ezra straight up says, I don't need that. I've been practicing with the Force. I've been like, lightsabers are cool, but watch me.
Real quick, sorry.
Yes.
Michael and Ken need to head out, so I just wanted to say proper goodbye to y'all. Thanks for coming. Tomorrow. Yeah, I will see you bright and early tomorrow. I will only get up early for you two. That's it. No one else.
By you two, you didn't mean me and him. You meant him and Sorcerer.
You see a grown man crying.
Him and Brick. No, I would never. I've gotten up early for you too, Ken. Okay.
She doesn't even get up early to record with me.
We all have
and this is our channel.
San Jose Toy Show tomorrow
Yeah.
at the San Jose
There or the
Fairgrounds.
Square. Anyways, where can everyone find y'all, and what do you guys have coming up that you would like to promote? Michael, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Michael, one half of Toy Habits. Got to give a shout out to my partner in crime.
Hi, Michael.
Toy Habits.
The Toy Sorceress, of course. But you can find us 90% of the time cranking out breaking news on toyhabits.com and on YouTube. We're here seldomly, but we're actually going to be on again tonight with Mega J, because, man, that guy never sleeps. He's the best, though. But on YouTube, we are at toyhabits_website, and on Instagram at toyhabitswebsite.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Toy
having me.
Awesome. And yes,
My
I'll
brother
see
made
you
that
bright and-
jingle.
bright and early.
I
I
saw
wondered.
I saw your
Awesome.
brother's channel the other day. He was reacting to music from the 90s that
Yeah.
he had never heard of before.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that is definitely 100% Michael's brother. Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love him so much, and I miss him. We're on opposite
Well, it's so
sides of the country.
it was so funny because
Aw.
when he was liking it, it's exactly how you react when you're like you get good toy news, like how excited you get. And I was like,
Yeah.
it was fun. I watched like 7
Oh.
of his videos back to back.
He's
So
great.
Wow.
anyway,
Love that. Ken, what about you? Where can people find you? What do you have coming up?
I just over on Toy Connections. I'm usually collaborating with the people you see on screen over here. Just finished a recent collaboration with actually Toy Sorceress because on one of the GI Joe history videos, and I've got a different GI Joe history video coming in ahead of that next week. So I just finished GI Joe history 1985 with Toy Sorceress. That'll come out probably in November, but GI Joe history of '84 comes out next week. So I will get that aired, and yeah, just having fun on everyone else's channels, happy to come on here. Didn't want to let Kayla and the crew down because we talked about it like over a month ago. And I was like, I swear something's going to come up and I won't finish Ahsoka on time and I won't make it. And something did come up. It was called my cousin-in-law's wedding. So everyone's in my house right now. That's why I have the door closed. But I'm like, no, I am coming on. And I finished Ahsoka this morning.
Okay,
Amazing.
I actually thought
That
you were going to
is
say
commitment.
something came up and it's called alcohol, but
There is that too. But I'm on pretty good behavior tonight for somebody who's had a couple,
Yeah, you're doing
I
great.
would
Doing great, sweetie.
if I had to deal with the wedding, I would be
I would be.
I would be
gone.
still drinking champagne from the bottle right here, like ugh.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
she
those-
threw the bouquet, and I threw it back.
Those video scripts aren't going to write themselves, but the last one I wrote might not be very legible because I had a couple to drink beforehand. I think I might have went off topic a little bit and started talking wrestling. Started out with something legible and then went into power slams and power drivers. So
We need to talk wrestling, Ken.
oh yeah, I know, Michael. I know. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
I know. Thank you so
Okay.
much. That was such a
Wrestling.
great
Thanks, everyone.
compliment.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Tomorrow.
See
Oh,
you
when I see you.
tomorrow,
See you, Michael.
Michael.
Yay.
9 a.m. sharp.
Toy Habits, Toy Connections.
Ken was like frozen. Anywho, where were we?
Bushido. the
yeah.
Force,
Oh
the
yes,
way.
Adam was getting very technical, and I was
Oh, I
like,
was
good.
"Ken,
done,
please,
actually. That
please
it was
shut
perfectly
him up."
timed. I was.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
She's
it just-
joking. That's the point of this channel. That's what Geek the Fuck Out stands for. Like, this
Exactly.
is
I
what
love
we're
it.
here to do.
Mhm.
Like to get passionate about the geeky shit that we love. So I love
Yes.
hearing
Yes.
you guys talk about Toss a
Clearly.
Saber. I was kind of hoping, like I was almost disappointed when they showed Ezra at the beginning of this episode building a lightsaber because it felt like last episode that he had moved past the need for it entirely. Like his Shaolin monk force,
Yeah.
like that was awesome. I want to see more of that. A force
Agreed.
user who just fights unarmed combat using the force with no weapons. Like I get even in that episode, like he picked up a blaster, but at that point it was out of necessity. He was outnumbered.
I feel like
would've-
that was Filoni channeling some Airbender action.
Yeah,
from
I mean,
his
and it
dad.
was cool. Like that. So it's one of the things that there's a YouTuber named Matt Colville, and he talks about, he has MCDM. He does a lot of things with tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons. And one of the things that he talks about is take the stuff you like and put it in your game. Like, take the things that you like and put it in your tabletop role-playing game because you like it and you're passionate about it, so you're going to make it fun for your players.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, the creators of all different types of things should do that. I ran a tabletop role-playing game that was essentially Power Rangers. Like, the characters all started as like villagers and went into this thing and got powers. They got their armor and their weapons, and then they went on an adventure.
And then it was Morphin time.
And that's and that's what we see Filoni doing with this. He's taking the shit he likes and putting it in Star Wars, like with the references to Narnia and Lord of the Rings and mythology in general being put in, like
wolves.
Yeah,
wolves everywhere.
Wolves. Yeah. I'm gonna give you wolves, but that aren't wolves, that look more like bat, horse, rats, dogs.
Well, I say this all the time that when people kind of push back against what we get in a particular IP, they're like, oh, you know, that's not my Star Wars, or that's not my Power Rangers, or that's not my, you know, whatever.
Especially
all canon is somebody's head canon.
Yeah. It's just whether or not it's
You're
official.
You're just
mad
that you don't get to be in charge because you would have done it differently. But guess what? Dave Filoni's the guy for Star Wars right now. And if bat, horse, wolves are what he's into, that's canon.
And just to add to that, to build
exactly.
on that.
But that's exactly the point. Is that, like, you know. You can't yuck someone's yum just because it's not what you would have done. And you know, jealousy doesn't look good on anybody. And that's true of people that sort of criticize decisions made within, you know, any IP, not just Star Wars, but.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add to that. If Tony Gilroy is doing Star Wars, we're going to get political thriller and revolution and the sort of like what that's about. If Jon Favreau's doing it, it's I like Lone Wolf and Cub, you know, like it's, and that's, I think, the way it should be, because if people are sort of like, well, that's not really Star Wars, I'm sorry, to go back to what you were saying, Adam, Lucas liked Westerns. Lucas like samurai films.
Yeah.
You know, Lucas like Lord of the Rings and all these other things like Dune, and it's all in there. And so, yeah. And then I think the other thing I'll say is that we've just lost the ability to be patient, I think. And I know it sounds like an old man thing to say, but I just feel like maybe it's the internet or what, but it's like, especially when you know this massive, one of the largest corporations on the planet with ridiculous amounts of resources, who's only interested in making more and more money, buy something like Star Wars, you have to realize that you're going to be in for a long haul of Star Wars. So if you don't like the Star Wars, give it a minute, and some other Star Wars is going to come around, and eventually you might like one. So, yeah,
it's there's my brain completely broke, so I forget what I was going to say. Never mind.
That's usually what happens to me.
Yeah. It just went gone.
Canon? Was it about canon?
I think it might have been, because I've said, you know, canon is overrated. Fucking people get up in arms about canon, and I think part of it, like Brick, you were saying, like it's canon. Well, yeah, it's canon now. If it's on the screen, it's canon now. So fucking deal with it.
Yeah.
It's my roommate used to say, like, he was one of those, they ruined Star Wars. Like, they ruined Anakin Skywalker's story with the last 3 movies. And I'm like, I don't understand why these 3 movies that you don't like invalidate the previous 6 that you do. Like, why did these 3 movies that you're not a fan of make the things that you used to like worse?
Anakin wasn't even in the original trilogy. He was Vader, so how do you even know how can you ruin a character when he's a different character? Like, it's illogical. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And we talked about it earlier. When Michael was asking Rick about, changing his perspective of Anakin, I think it really has of mine. Like, I feel like this really shows, even with watching Clone Wars, I think this really humanizes Anakin even more than Clone Wars. And I don't know if it's just because it's live action and not animated. I don't know. I feel like it filled in a lot of his character for me. And, I think just because of this focus of the connection between him and Ahsoka and that bond of master and apprentice. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed that a lot. And I think, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, that's it.
Brick, you talked about like no, I've lost my train of thought too. The
I said
We're
all
rubbing
kinds
off
of
on each
shit.
other.
Anakin.
It's almost 3 hours into it.
I might have ruined my own train of thought because I'm also thinking about something else that I want to talk about. But the what was it about the master and apprentice relationship there? Something
Master and servant.
And like how connected they are. Something along those lines.
Oh,
Them like teaching each other.
Yeah, teaching each other,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
how like Anakin sort of learned from Snips and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then Anakin becomes Darth Vader. And when we were talking about the sort of the arc of Anakin, right? And if we, I mean, do we think that was World Between Worlds, and was that was that Anakin in there, or is that a project? Like, regardless, we can maybe come back to that. But like the idea that I think in Return of the Jedi, if you sort of take Anakin's arc to its full extent to Return of the Jedi, we kind of get we get Vader's redemption by way of protecting his son and sort of throwing Palpatine down the wherever, whatever that was, right? Like he's kind of come to the realization that he's made a grave mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like this feels like an extension of that, right? Like the dying Anakin sort of having to atone for what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody else get that about the kind of Force ghost Anakin?
I did. It also made me it sort of ties into the sequel trilogy, because at one point there were plans for Vader's ghost to appear in a scene to Kylo. And I was intrigued by that when that was announced, because obviously at the end of Return of the Jedi, we get the quick glimpse of Anakin as a Force ghost.
Force ghost, yeah.
Exposition ghost. And I was intrigued when they mentioned the concept of Vader's ghost, because one of the places where my brain sort of has a breakdown between the prequels and the original trilogy, which was exasperated by Rogue One, is how brutal Vader is at times. I mean, yeah, sure, Anakin kills younglings. He kills all of the Tusken Raiders and sort of a rage.
Yeah.
All of them, even the women and the children. And I've got dust in my sand in my butt crack, and it's terrible. It chafes, Padme. It chafes everywhere as I sit here under a blanket, moaning naked from the boobs up about my mother. Anyway, I really just digressed. I apologize. But my point is like Vader is. I mean, I sort of actually get the point the friend was making about it ruins Vader. And I don't think, I mean, I get why he thinks that. I don't agree. But to me, there's still the Obi-Wan show helps me a little bit with this because of the work they did do with Vader and Obi-Wan in that. But for me, there's still a little bit of a disconnect between the little boy we meet pod racing on Tatooine, becoming Vader, because it seems so contrary to his actual nature in that first movie. Because this is a kid willing to almost kill himself in a pod race to get them money to get a part. That's very selfless. And I know people can take dark turns, but I don't think, and this could just be because, you know, like when I was in college and I considered being a criminal profiler and took a bunch of classes, and the type of people who turn into the type of person who commits a genocide, and let's just say that's basically Vader does that multiple times on screen in Rogue One, and then, you know, in the Obi-Wan, and, you know, even the youngling thing, it is shocking, but it always felt too soon.
It started with Order 60. Well, no, it started with the Sand People, right?
Well, it did, but at the same time, even that felt like this has to happen for a plot point. It never, and, you know, people are like, well, I've said this before, and people are like, well, it's Hayden Christensen. I'm like, no, it's really not, because Hayden is a pretty good actor. Natalie Portman's obviously a really good actress. You know, there's some shortcomings with the writing and the prequel trilogy that I can
faster, more intense.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. That's, you know, and at times that leads to plot holes.
That's what they said.
And are, you know, like lapses in character, and I still can't quite line up. And the reason, and we get back to my original point in saying all this, the reason that concept of the Force the ghost of Vader was intriguing to me, because that sort of somehow gave me a place where I'm like, this might be how, you know, because what, you know, like there's still so much we don't know about the Sith officially in canon, especially with all of the stuff that's been denoted legacy Legends canon. You know, like, what is the nature, like, yeah, there was at one point sort of a Sith Lord trying to possess Luke Skywalker in the various expanded universe novels. So I always had kind of wondered if, like, you know, especially with the way sort of Obi-Wan at times talked about how Anakin was corrupted by, and, you know, like he was corrupted by Vader. Some of the OT language around it didn't necessarily make it seem like, it seemed like to me Vader may not actually, like, Anakin and Vader may be sort of a thing together, but maybe they were not. Maybe Vader was an outside force. And so, but what we see here kind of obviously invalidates all of my thoughts around that as being something that could happen in the future. But it also sort of helped me see Anakin. Like, I feel really resolved about some of my dislikes of Anakin's character from the prequels. I still can't quite, even with the extra bits in Obi-Wan, I still can't quite get to, and again, it's ironic that it's in the Disney era that we get that big scene in Rogue One where it's like we finally see Vader sort of doing what we always expected him to do in the OT and never quite did on screen. It's easier for me if we hadn't it's a kick-ass scene. I wouldn't want to lose it or remove it because it is really I mean, like, I teared up watching it because it was so intense, and it was like a frightening scene because you're seeing somebody being just horrible to human, like, you know, these, and the rebels sacrificing. Oh, I'm tearing up right now. Thank you, Star Wars. But also saying, like, the rebels giving their lives to get these plans to Leia so that maybe there's hope. Oh my God.
Wow. Hot take, Adam.
Like a new hope, maybe?
Perhaps. But so anyway, so I still don't, again, this sort of helped with Anakin and him in the prequels, but I still can't quite get from Anakin to Vader, even with this additional, and, you know, it was a really good work, you know, like, set of scenes well written. I feel like the Anakin Rebels also had a lot of super brutal Vader, but they also kept him off screen a lot. So it's a little bit easier. It's just that scene in Rogue One for me, like, I still don't quite understand, because he was really swayed by Luke really quickly in Return of the Jedi from where we leave him in Empire. Like, so anyway, that's my thoughts.
So in that, so on the flip side of that coin, you like what they did with Luke in the sequel trilogies then too.
I don't know that, like, I didn't hate it. I felt it was logical.
That's, I mean, that's what I'm sort of alluding to.
Yeah, I didn't hate
facetiously, is that, like, I agree. I think there's a bigger disconnect between Pod Racer Anakin and Darth Vader than there is with Return of the Jedi Luke and throwing the saber over his shoulder.
I 100% can see, like, for me, that's 100% a possibility of where Luke could end
cynical. He just got cynical. It's not that big of a stretch.
It's not a stretch at all. Like, his whole sort of, he grows up an orphan with an aunt and an uncle. He never knows
who won't let him do anything fun.
Right. Nothing. You know, his idea of fun is
won't even let me go to Tachi Station.
Right. His idea of fun is to go buy Tashi's power converters and to bullseye Womp Rats and, like, almost die, like, racing his land speeder.
He just wanted to hang with
Beggar's Cannon. So and then his aunt and uncle are brutally murdered by stormtroopers because they've got these droids, and then he ends up. So Luke, you know, like, everyone's like, Luke's hero story is so typical, but it's not technically. Like, Luke only goes on that journey because his aunt and uncle are killed and he has nothing else. But also, on a practical level, it's not safe for him to stay on Tatooine because eventually they will find him and trace the droids to him. And even if he's like, oh, they went with the old creepy dude from the desert, they would kill him afterwards. Luke is acting in survival mode when he and Ben Kenobi run off together with his stepdad's droids. You know, like, we've all been there, right? Amy Fisher was like, I'm seen by this movie. Anyhow, but for me, it makes more sense, you know?
Well, I mean, he hated sand when he was just a man. You ever get sand electronics? It gets everywhere.
Pretty much. So,
good point.
So yeah, for me, it makes sense. You know, Luke, his first real crush we know is from a cut scene, so she doesn't count. Poor Cammy. But his first real sort of romantic interest is his sister, who he doesn't know, even though later they both always knew somehow.
No, his first romantic. Luke. Sorry, I was thinking Anakin again. I was like, wait, you're jumping ahead there.
Yeah, no, yes. And you know, so, like, there's that, and it's like, even, you know, and Leia's playing it cool the whole time, mostly using him to make Han jealous. Like, let's be frank, in Empire, if you look at it, she's totally not really. I think Leia was into the idea of Luke, even though apparently she knew he was her. I blame him for some of the weird shit happening on the internet and /fandom. But so it makes sense to me that Luke would get really jaded.
You blame Luke Skywalker for the internet?
No, for some of the /fiction fandom stuff happening, there's a lot of sort of sibling stuff going down, and it's like, you know,
so you think that would not be a trend on certain websites if it wasn't for that happening in Star Wars?
I think there's a bunch of 100% we're doing that long before Luke Skywalker was.
But we didn't make it a thing. It was like, oh God, don't go to that state.
Who may have learned it from their former colonizers' royalty, but sure.
Yeah, probably. Whatever. Yeah. I'm just saying. In pop culture.
I mean, just in terms of the whole notion of, like, which is more believable, like, getting from little kid Anakin, pod racer Anakin, slave Anakin to Vader versus, like, some of the newer stuff, like Luke turning into Last Jedi Luke. Yeah. I think on it, the other piece of that is just not only I just think storytelling has grown up.
Yeah, it's true.
I just think storytelling has grown up. We wouldn't have been able to get Andor in 1977 or even 86 or 90. We just couldn't. So I think there's some of that.
Talk about the writing, the directing, the acting. And I'm like, you've seen the original trilogy, right? Like,
objectively, the original trilogy is not that great.
No.
I mean, Return of the Jedi, Carrie Fisher, acting, like,
it's cringe as fuck. There's a lot of, like, plot holes, there's a lot of, like, inconsistencies, there's, like, a lot of stuff, like, it's choppy, it's not perfect. Like
If
I
nerds
know.
hadn't
then
latched
there was like
onto it,
cringy,
Star Wars
corny
would have been
moments.
dead in the water.
I mean, I adore
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher, but it's clear that in Return of the Jedi, she is auditioning for any telenovela who will take her after the end of that movie because, the way she emotes, like all she needs
Don't
is the
insult
big.
telenovelas.
All she needs is the big bangs and and actually she gets a lot of makeup in that one. So that's all she needs because like someone who loves you, it's like you go girl, chew that scenery like Shatner. But so the acting isn't, there's the whole Carrie Fisher when they filmed the first Star Wars was in London film at the Shakespearean Dramatic Academy learning how to be an actress. And so she started in London before everyone else with, like when Peter Cushing was doing all of his scenes. So that's why she, she has a British accent in certain scenes because she literally had been submerged in it, and Harrison and Mark Hamill hadn't shown up. So there were no Americans there other than George Lucas, who was only like faster, more intense, and you can't have underwear, and we have to tape your boobs down so they don't bounce in your like that was her. Everything else was British. She'd been in England. That's why
talking.
Yeah, Governor Talkin, I
Lord
should have
Vader.
expected to find you holding Lord Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board. It's like a Maggie Smith. All that's missing is a little bit of the shakiness, but that's because she was, which any other director, even in the 70s would have been like, Carrie, that's not the voice you're using. Or in the other scenes when it's her and Luke and Han, he would have been, remember, you've got that accent thing happening, and he didn't because performance to him wasn't important. And for the type of movie he was trying to make, it's not necessarily important. We've just reached a point where there are a lot of people who will tell me
Johnny.
It's totally still life.
Sorry, Allison.
But there are still people who there are a lot of people I see who talk about like, oh my God, so-and-so, the acting in that was so good. And it's like, really, did we watch the same thing? Because I have not seen good acting in most of the Marvel movies. And yet every time I've gotten, there's which is the Chris nobody really likes, the
Don't
Garden.
talk shit about my husband.
The Guardian of the Galaxy one. Yeah, that one.
Okay, that's fine.
Everyone's like, he was so good as
You say Evan.
Kayla was ready to throw hands.
He was so good as Star-Lord. I'm like,
my
he
husband.
was? Like, I don't know. I watched 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I've never seen him be a good actor in anything except Parks and Recs, when I think he was just being himself. So it's like, but people will talk about what a great actor he is. So I just,
in the Jurassic World movies.
I don't watch those movies because
because everything else was so bad.
I mean,
no, I'm kidding. He's terrible in those.
I know.
But so I hear people like commending people for being good and bad actors, and I'm just like, well, I've seen the movies you like where you think people are acting good and it sucks.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, and it's not like I care. I
it's like it's a superhero movie. Yeah, like
I mean, it doesn't.
Good, but also,
it doesn't need to be good acting. It just needs to be confident enough to sell the story.
I clearly.
I know.
But it's like I hear. Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian,
Daddy Pedro.
I hear all the time he's such a good actor. It's like it's literally his voice through a he's got him. How can you tell? And they're like, well, his body language.
In The Last of Us.
It's not even his body though.
Yeah, right. I
it's
can't.
2 other dudes.
It's like
he wasn't there in season 2.
Yeah, right.
And
I'm not saying this to knock him. I'm just saying, like, when people try to talk to me about bad acting in the context of Star Wars, it's like, but most movies today have bad acting. I haven't seen, I've seen people win Oscars in the last 5 to 10 years where I'm like, where have our standards gone? It's like, I don't know. Shatner could win an Oscar if he was just getting started out right now because he is so emotive, and it's just like you can tell he's passionate, and it's like, it's hammy. So anyway, that's my discussion when people want to dig on acting, like she's just so stiff and unlikable. I'm like, Rosario Dawson has probably given us some of the best actual acting we will ever see in a Star Wars anything. Like and people are just like, it's not her. It's just not like, just shut up, Carl. Shut
I
up.
think
You don't know
the-
what you're talking about.
I
She's a
think-
she's a brown woman.
Johnny, you have to jump in at some point. You
I
you-
think the best
you're
the
chomping
best
at the bit.
the best acting is when I don't recognize or think about whether the acting is good or
Yeah,
bad.
right.
Like either way, if I'm going, this is bad acting or this is such great acting, then it's not really that great acting because I'm realizing that it's acting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You understand
makes
what I'm
sense.
saying?
And I think
Like
I'm
just
on the
when I'm
page
just
there.
invested in the story and what I'm seeing on the screen and not thinking about the performances is really
Yeah.
to me the best performances.
Yep.
But
Yep, I agree. It's like so and so made me cry. I'm like, it's right because it was you were emotionally manipulated. That's not acting. That's your mom speaking, sir.
In the
Anyway.
moment, I 100% agree with you, Johnny, that like in the moment, I just sort of want to be sucked into the story and I want to believe you are this and you are that. And I'm just going with it. But after the fact, totally like,
Yeah.
damn, that was good. Like, whoa.
Yeah, I could think about it afterwards. Be like, they were really good in that. But if I'm watching them on the screen doing what they're doing, and I'm like, they're doing really well, then they're probably not doing as well as they seem to be. So hey, we're at
3 hours.
This is our longest last live stream. So real quick, Adam, what's your last thought? Real quick.
I got a couple more Ahsoka things that I want to throw
let's
out
do
there.
it. No, I'm here for it. I've got all night. Let's go.
This is lightning. It's midnight for me.
These
So.
are very, very quick
6
ones.
a.m.
How is it that every planet in Star Wars has the same gravity?
Colonizers.
Second point that ties onto that one. Don't these ships ever run out of fuel?
No. Well,
nobody has a security system. Nobody has anti-theft on their ships either.
Rapid fire.
What was it?
I'm trying to wrap up all the things that I
or
wanted to
whatever,
talk
and they're like, we're gonna be stuck here because we're going to find or episode 5 because we're trying to find Ahsoka. They talked about that. So
well, the solo movie. Yeah, the solo movie
mean anything, and then Ahsoka took off in her ship to another galaxy and was like,
she was in the whale. She didn't have to use fuel.
How does she not have to use fuel?
Because
she was in the whale.
The whale was moving.
Yeah,
right.
The ship was parked and off.
But you get to the other end, and then what? You don't know there's a gas
She didn't go
station
very
over
far
there.
once they got there.
Whoops. Well, maybe she was hoping there would be more of that.
My
that
point
guy
is, none of you
that,
know
like,
the answer. And
It
it's just a
wasn't her.
weird
It
little
wasn't
thing.
her ship. It wasn't her ship that was out. It was the
They
ghost.
talk about being low on fuel, and then they go to another
The
galaxy without
the
any
ghost
sort of
was low
thought
on
about where
fuel,
they're going
not
to
her,
refuel.
not Ahsoka's ship.
Her magic,
God damn it!
force-powered ship.
They had that. Who was that dude? Was it
Once again,
Merrick
it was
that was
not
like
her ship,
green
it was
gas?
the ghost.
Merrick was
Okay.
nothing. He was nothing.
I know we're
That's
trying
the
to
end.
end, but if we're gonna really try and be super logical and nitpick, there's
Here's my
one
last-
thing that there's one thing that bugs me. Since you're
Yeah, I
going
got
on this
one more
nitpicky
nitpick.
thing, okay, got it. Weren't they in a hurry
Someone
to
who says
catch
he
up to
loves all
Thrawn?
Star Wars. You seem to have a lot of nitpicks.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I can live with the nitpicks, and then I still love it. Other people are like they get caught up and they
Yes, we know
can't
you love
deal.
each other.
Yeah.
But the
You're
whole thing,
boyfriends.
just curious. They were trying to catch up to Thrawn. They wanted, like, they knew he was gonna. Why were they chilling with the? Why were they slowly hovering with the Naughty? Like, just like, peace, Naughty. We're flying over there because we need to get there. That's the only. That was the one part where I was like, this is weird.
And the fuel
before-
associated with that.
Do you know what I'm
Oh,
talking
and
about?
they were just
Fuel
literally
within an
flying
atmosphere
over.
Yeah.
is going to be much, much, much more demand. Like, you're going to use so much more fuel within an atmosphere than you are if you're in outer space. And meanwhile,
That's
like
a
you
good
said,
point.
they're just like,
Fossil fuels, baby.
we're just going to
Fossil
cruise at like 3 kilometers an hour in rock turtle speed. And then we're going to be like, oh, shoot, don't we have to get to another galaxy? Let's go try and catch up to those guys. Like, why was that not their priority? But anyway, the Kintsugi Night Trooper
Kintsugi
thing,
Shibari.
Oh,
like-
dope. Yes.
it looks
Again.
awesome, but
Yeah.
they had all those like 3D printed gray parts,
Mm-hmm.
and then they piece it all back together with some gold. Why didn't
Yeah.
they just reprint a helmet?
I don't know that it was
Because
3D
it looks-
printed.
Cooler, Adam.
It looks so
So-
cool. Those are the coolest stormtroopers we've probably ever seen.
You opened
Because they're
another
both
door.
Kintsugi
But it
and
doesn't make any
Shibari.
sense.
I think
But-
it ties
Your
into
rings tied all
Yes,
over them.
say it, Johnny.
I think it ties into Thrawn's appreciation of art and his whole
yes.
thing about art and
That's
like
true. That's a good one.
What were you gonna say, Brick?
Well, good.
Something different than that, obviously.
yeah,
Hey,
I mean
what?
that's it. I think the Kitsugi stuff just ties into Thrawn like Kintsugi, whatever. It's midnight for me.
that's right.
Just ties into to
Kintsugi.
Thrawn appreciating
said
art
kid.
and culture and like what was I forget exactly what they say. He said in Rebels like if you understand someone's art, you understand their culture.
You
Okay, so but more importantly than that, if we're diving into nitpicks, how is it that Thrawn's white suit was so perfectly white and so perfectly pressed on this dirty witch planet? Like
it was taken care of, but it was worn. If you looked at like the
Magic.
collar was threadbare and the seams on the edges were threadbare, so there was definite wear on his uniform, even though it was clean.
But if you saw Rebels before he left, he was a very svelte
Yeah, he got
character.
fat too.
And in this, he gained some weight, and yet his uniform still fits. So how does that work? Anyway, real quick,
Pandemic.
Kintsugi.
Magic stretching.
So I got excited. This is where you open the door, and so this is a real thing. You were asking about
literally opening the door.
Kintsugi, Kitsugi.
Kintsugi. I wrote it in the chat.
Kintsugi with an N. Okay.
Yeah.
Kintsugi,
You
that
guys
was
are
not the
pronouncing it wrong.
That's how.
Okay. Either way,
Kintsugi.
go ahead.
The KIN means gold. Kintsugi. The TSU
Kintsugi.
is one syllable.
Got it.
Kintsugi.
Space Sugi.
Kintsugi.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Hey,
So
white boy.
with the so with the Kintsugi, when
The
was the
lady
first time
from
we
the
saw that in Star
Incredibles
Wars?
made the uniform.
When was that
excellent.
the first time?
Perfect.
That we
Kenzo
this,
wins.
This was not the first time that we saw it in Star Wars. The first time we saw it in Star Wars was in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, with
when
Kylo's helmet.
a monkey dude on Exegol, maybe tying back to what I was saying earlier about who these people are, but crafts that helmet back together in Kintsugi. So
Did he use gold though?
He
No,
did.
it was red.
It was red, but it
red.
looked
It was red
goldish
gold.
while it was
Kintsugi
doing, and then
then.
cooled. But
It was
I'm
Sith
just saying
gold.
a connection again. So potentially,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Dave Filoni usually doesn't just throw in random things. I really do think part of it Filoni's filling the gap between these
With
things
gold.
because he's just like, we've seen this before. Later down, Kylo Ren does this thing, but he does it particularly on Exegol with somebody there. I'm still wondering if some of what we're seeing in those dead caskets and maybe the Dathomirians or the Night Sisters end up back in Exegol and are kind of a part of it. And so we see that kind of connection. Like he's telling us, oh, they do this thing where they take old armor and they make it. Where else do they do that? Oh, much later on Exegol, they'll be doing that. And then the other piece, it came up earlier, but I just kind of bit my tongue. With
Just gonna leave this on
as
the
far
screen.
as where Thrawn, when we were asking like, why is he doing this?
Fix it up.
What if there's a massive swerve and it turns out like he's not actually trying to restore the Empire? That's what everyone assumes. But what if, because if you do go back to when he joins the Empire, he has a relationship with the Emperor that most people don't realize. Like they're kind of like, they have a conversation that is like, you've never see anyone talk to the Emperor this way, and you never see the Emperor treat anyone with respect in the same way that he does Thrawn. And so what if Thrawn actually knew about the Emperor's sort of ultimate plan? And so he's actually trying to bring the Night Sisters back to the Emperor so that they can do Exegol and the Sith Ascendancy can come back to get us to Tross.
How did Palpatine get to Exegol if it's in the unknown region, which is where the Chiss is from, which is where Thrawn is from? He would have had to come the other way from the unknown region. He very well could have known about Exegol, and he could have said to Palpatine, hey, I got a spot that might
potentially
suit your needs perfectly.
But we also know that Palpatine, throughout all the Clone Wars, we see that he's clearly versed in a bunch of stuff that the Jedi don't know. He knows who the Night Sisters are. He tries to partner with them until the point where he sees them as a threat and tries to kill them. So I think he knows all sorts of dark side stuff. He had all that stuff in his office. Like, he knows stuff that most people don't. So I honestly think that maybe the idea is that he's always had the plan for Exegol. He maybe knew where Exegol was. That's why he had those little stupid triangle things that taught you how to get there. Like, I feel like the notion ultimately with Palpatine and Sidious is that those little triangle wayfinders, the wayfinders,
the Sith wayfinders.
He knew where to send Vader to get those things. He knew, actually, sorry, lots of canon in my brain. We actually do see Exegol in the comic books, and Vader goes there because Emperor tells him about it. They did know about that. Anyway, sorry. That, friends, is ridiculously nerdy. I just had my GTFO thing. But anyway.
You geeked the F out. I'm struggling to keep my eyes open.
I think yes.
He needs a guitar. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Thank y'all for joining. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Brick, do you anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Just that. Yeah, there you go, Kayla.
You can't say that.
Are there any okay. Every Sunday I do this thing called the Brick Something News at 4:30 p.m. on Pacific time, where I bring in a co-host and we just kind of talk about cool things that we saw in the week or ever. So come check that out on the Brick Something channel. And then I do shorts pretty regularly, thanks to my friend Allison, who taught me the way. And I just kind of show off toys because it's fun. And those are the main things, because I think there's other things that are coming up that somebody else can bring up.
Adam?
And Michael from Toy Habits, who is here, will be on tomorrow. So you will be, or on Sunday. So you will be seeing him 3 days in a row.
Yes, Michael is going to be my co-host this week. She's going to be awesome. And I think, thank you. That's it.
Adam, what do you got coming up?
Coming up, I've got on Sunday, I got my regular, normal 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be talking about a couple Kickstarters that are going on right now. Brick is going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about the legendary Kickstarter, which ends on Sunday, as well as the Cyberzoic Kickstarter that just sort of kicked off recently. And had a huge bump in the last couple of days. Good things coming from that Kickstarter and from that brand as well. And we will probably devolve into AWOC as well, just by default. And there is an AWOC talk video being posted this weekend, is there not?
No, we just had AWOC talk last weekend. We had
next weekend there will be an AWOC talk video being posted.
Rick is like, no. Don't make me.
And then in the meantime, I probably open something. I'll probably unbox something.
Wednesdays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, whenever. Hit the notification. I don't know. I don't know when it is. So it happens when I feel like it.
Yeah. And then every time you post it, I just say no.
Yeah.
I will be streaming with Allison on Sunday.
Yep.
I'm ready. I've got my stuff.
So really quickly, because I'm busy. So yesterday I had a full length, less than 10 minute, but not a short drop on my channel. It's the first in my ongoing series called Villain Obscura, where I look at obscure villains that sometimes get action figures. In this case, Terror and Lord Grass from Masters of the Universe. If I say it like that, you can't hear my southern accent, whereas you do hear it. The Louisiana and Texas come out when I say terror. Anyway, unless I make it weird. So anyway, that hit yesterday. Go watch it. It's less than 10 minutes. You've got time. There's a Gem in the Holograms short on my channel for today. Go watch that. In a couple hours, there'll be Princess of Power Saturday short. Sunday, I've got a live with Johnny coloring Trek. It'll be sort of like the test run color along that I did with Kayla and my friend Muriel. So I'll be coloring you can see my work on screen. I'm not going to make Johnny show his, and we're just going to chat about geeky stuff.
Oh no, I'm fully set up to like have the camera on.
Ooh, well then there we go.
Yeah.
I thought that was the agreement.
I'm making plans.
It was
yeah.
like
I'm not going to force anyone to show their work on camera, except other than lifting a picture up to the screen every so often. But nobody should be forced to like have their hand on a camera unless they have a cool glove. And my new pink ones should arrive just in time for the live stream. Next Tuesday, I'll have another shorts collection, which goes up on the regular channel. And I'm also excited because not tomorrow, Saturday, but the Saturday after, I am doing a live stream interview with a YouTube creator, Make, Shape, Create. He does amazing He-Man and Motu customs, but it's all from newer media. So it's from one of the multiversal comics. And he's somebody who helped reignite my passion for customizing. So he's got way more followers than I do. So I was really surprised when he was excited and enthusiastic. So yeah, I've got that coming up, and that's my spiel.
Sweet.
Thank you.
We've got Stranger Things starting on Monday.
Ooh.
Stranger Things.
I totally missed that until you guys mentioned it earlier, so that's cool.
We haven't posted it yet.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh,
we
okay.
have. You heard it here first.
So are you doing it live, recorded?
Which of you
How
has
are you
to
doing
watch
that?
it to know what's going on? Because isn't that like?
I have not watched it yet.
Ooh.
Okay, so you're reversing roles now.
Yep.
Oh yes.
Yes,
Reverse
Johnny's
cowgirl.
now the bottom.
Yes.
I really would love to. Yes. Are you doing this live or are you editing them?
We're doing these
It'll be
ones live. Yeah.
The only
okay.
ones that we're recording will be Trek Retrek TOS.
Yeah.
Everything else will be live. It's just easier, because he's the one
Live
that does all
is-
the
Yeah, live is easier. I couldn't see myself editing two shows in the vein of Trek Retrek for twice a week now.
Also
I like
the-
Trek Retrek the way it is. Like I think I like that format. But the other stuff will just.
I think Trek Retrek also works probably a lot better as evergreen type of content for you to have on your channel, whereas where it's
Always
curated and edited a certain way, whereas live streaming the rest of it should be fine. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure what time. Probably 7 Pacific, most likely, so I can work a little longer. But yeah, we're just going to be covering the first 2 episodes of Stranger Things, and we're going to be doing it every Monday for October for our spoopy content. And that'll cover the first season, so that'll work out well. And then we'll do it periodically after that, because this month we're doing a lot, and we're like,
well,
I
will say on the Stranger Things, this is more for Johnny's benefit since he hasn't watched it yet. I'm assuming you haven't watched the first 2 episodes yet, or have you?
I've not.
Okay,
No.
cool. It's fine. No shame. If anyone wonders what my hair looks like and how I dressed in middle school, Barb is like me at that age. I just didn't have the glasses then, but Barb was like 100%, and how dorky I was. So
This is
anyway. 100%. They did her anyway. No.
Okay.
We have that, and normal Trek Retrek on Thursdays, and then next Friday we're gonna be doing an episode with my friend Tasia. Might have someone else come on, we'll see. But we're gonna be talking about, oh my god, I'm forgetting the title of The Fall of the House of Usher.
Ooh.
House of Usher.
Huh.
Just the first 2 episodes, and then we'll be doing another episode later in the month. So more spoopy content.
I haven't seen that.
It's Mike Flanagan. He
Thursday.
did
cool.
Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass.
Wait, this is
Midnight Club.
new? This
Yeah,
is
this is new.
It comes out Thursday.
This is the
And it's-
entire.
And it's actually The Fall of the House of Usher,
Yep.
or are they just using that title? Oh, really?
It is.
Cool.
It's modernized.
Okay.
It seems like
don't
it's
even
going to
know
be
what
a
that
modernized take, but it is an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's.
It's going to be
Fall of the House of
Edgar
Usher.
Allan
what he did with Hill House, where he took the original text and reworks it and makes it modern. And it's the only
Okay.
reason I didn't turn off Netflix for this month. I was like, I was like, I should say because I barely. I'm like, but House of Usher. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Allison,
Yeah,
you are more than
but
welcome
Allison,
to join.
there's a
We're
new
just going
season
to
of
be
Love is
doing
Blind.
What was that?
What?
Nothing.
Do you know
I
how much
missed that.
actual TV I like? I have not watched Disney Plus until everyone started having Ahsoka shows. But prior to that, I had not watched it since like Obi-Wan. So I think there's a Star Wars show or two I need to catch up. I haven't watched Andor all the way through yet because I could only see free stuff. Yeah. Anyway.
Young Jedis.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, we're just rambling now. We'll see
Yeah,
you.
Yes.
We'll see
Okay,
you
you can follow
Monday.
us
I'll
at
see you
GTFO
Sunday.
channel.
Love is
Smack the
blind.
like,
We'll
smack
see
that
you.
subscribe, smack that bell icon on
Ultimatum
everyone's
season
thing.
2.
Good night, children of Alderaan. You're all gorgeous.
Adam, stop
Infinite
talking.
diversity and infinite combinations. Bye.
Live
This is
long
the
and
way.
prosper.